Well, there's only 8 seconds left on the ad. So, I mean, hey, I guess I can just do my little testaroo while, well, I guess not while the ad is going, but just one moment. Hello, everybody. Okay, let's see. Everything sound okay? Okay, everything's sounding okay. It is October, and you know what that means? That means it's time for the cloak to come out. I actually have been wanting to get an Alucard cosplay from Netflix Castlevania and Symphony of the Night. To read Dracula with, but I haven't gotten around to doing that. And so I was like, you know what? I have a cloak in my closet. Why not I just use that? Also, I have an idea. Let me try it out. Well, I thought that the computer light could be my candle, but I don't like how that looks. But yeah, you can't really tell, but it's got red on the bottom and everything. I don't like how the hood feels, but you can at least know that I am wearing a cloak, reading Dracula, reading the September part of Dracula, but in October. And I am glad that I'm hopping on this fairly early because I realized that there's a lot in September. Like, let's see. Oh no, this is only part of August. So, part of August is 44 pages. So I guess maybe, come to think of it, if the other part of August was also like 44 pages, it might add up to like 100 pages. But this is like 130 pages, and there are some that are like a single day that have a ton of different things in them that are really long. So I'm realizing that the rub in the fact that I copy these over, because it means that I will inadvertently see things. And so first of all, Van Helsing's name came up a lot, and I most certainly never arrived at Van Helsing's part of the story the first few times I read it. The first few times I read and reread just the beginning part and never got further. So we are definitely in new territory for sure. I looked it up and I was like, I know he has an accent of some sort, and he does. Apparently he is a Dutch man who has a thick German accent. Am I gonna do great at that? I don't know, but by golly, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to give this man a German accent. And the other thing, and if I saw this right, this is going to be a spoiler, so I don't know. Cover your ears if you don't want to hear the spoiler, I guess. But I think I saw some talk of Lucy dying in the, in what I saw. And I don't know if it's a situation of like, anytime I saw that, I brushed past it really fast and didn't linger on it, so I could have seen it wrong. B, maybe she dies, but she, like, comes back, like, they try to bury her, but she claws her way back as a vampire. Or C, she actually is dead, and I saw that right. And I also I saw a line of that Lucy's mom died, and then that I, like, tried to go past it, but I saw at the end of that paragraph, like, buried with her, and so I'm wondering if they died together and Lucy was buried with her. But man, like, I was not expecting that at all. The only reason I'm saying this and potentially spoiling it for you is just to tell you where I'm coming from and let you know that I'm not going to be as surprised when that comes up, because unfortunately I did see that while I was copying down the chapters or the pages. And, but yeah, I was really not expecting that because I thought, I don't know, I thought like she had a blood transfusion or something and they managed to save her in time. But it looks like maybe they didn't, and like there was nothing from Lucy after I saw that, and so that made me think that I wasn't wrong in seeing that. There also were letters from Mina that's like letters to Lucy, and then it says never read by her or something like that, never opened. And like that felt like a gut punch. That was before I even got to the part where it seemed to say that she died. And so I was like, oh, that hits. That hits different. That is certainly a reason to use the letter format of writing a book, because then you can do stuff like that. But anywho, I don't know if we're gonna get that far today. I don't have high hopes that we are gonna get through September. I think this is gonna be another part 1, part 2, if not part 3 thing. And I was hoping we could actually do some of the October Dracula entries in October. Still crossing my fingers that I will step on it and be able to do more of these than I did last month and actually do that. So cross your fingers, knock on wood, all that good stuff, that I'll be able to do some actual October entries in October. But as is, lots of September entries to get to. Spoiler part over. Let us begin. September 1st. Telegram. Arthur Holmwood to Seward. 1st of September. Am summoned to see my father, who is worse. Am writing. Write me fully by tonight's post to ring. Wire me, if necessary. So, when I saw this, I was already like, wow, that's probably the shortest entry we've gotten. But it also doesn't say anything. Like, great. I think it took me a minute. I think who is worse means, like, his father is sick too. And so he's summoned to see his father who is doing worse. When I first saw it, I was like, who is worse than who? Or who is worse than what? No, worse than he was before. But then it's like, I'm summoned to see my father. Am writing. Write me fully tonight or wire me. It's like, was he not going to do that already? Did you really have to send a whole thing to say, I am writing? You be writing. That feels like what we as writers should do with each other. Am writing? You writing. All right. September 2nd. Letter from Dr. Seward to Arthur Holmwood. 2nd of September. My dear old fellow, with regards to Miss Westenra's health, I hasten to let you know at once that in my opinion there is not any functional disturbance or any malady that I know of. At the same time, I am not by any means satisfied with her appearance. She is woefully different from what she was when I saw her last. Of course, you must bear in mind that I did not have full opportunity of examination, such as I should wish. Our very friendship makes a little difficulty, which not even medical science or custom can bridge over. I had better tell you exactly what happened, leaving you to draw in a measure your own conclusions. I shall then say what I have done and propose doing. Yeah, come to think of it, I feel like you should not call in... Wow. You should not call in the person who is in love with your fiance to be her doctor. Like, granted, it does seem like Arthur and Seward and Quincy are all buds and they all trust each other. But yeah, just feels like he has ulterior motives, and so it feels like he is not going to be an impartial doctor here. Feels like you should be calling in another doctor, which might be Van Helsing. I saw a lot of monikers, and I think it's the next one. But yeah, so, and good on Seward for mentioning that. And also very fair that it's like, I can't tell what the malady is, but she doesn't look good. Let's see. Hold on a sec. All right. Okie dokie. Anywho. But yeah, very fair. That's like, I don't know what this malady is, but she don't look good. Which is definitely not, that's like one of, there's a lot of worse things you could hear from a doctor, but I feel like that is up there with things you don't want to hear from a doctor. That's like, I can't tell anything that's wrong with her, but I don't like how she looks. Also not a nice thing to hear if the doctor's just calling you ugly, but especially not nice if you look diseased and they can't tell what the disease is. And I don't know exactly what this means. If she's like, no, I don't want you to see me naked. Or if it's something else, or if she was like lashing out at him or something. I don't know. I found Miss Westenra in seemingly gay spirits. Her mother was present, and in a few seconds I made up my mind that she was trying all she knew to mislead her mother and prevent her from being anxious. I have no doubt she guesses, if she does not know, what need of caution there is. We lunched alone, and as we all exerted ourselves to be cheerful, we got some kind of reward for our labors, some real cheerfulness amongst us. Then Mrs. Westenra went to lie down, and Lucy was left with me. We went into a boudoir, and until we got there, her gaiety remained, for the servants were coming and going. As soon as the door was closed, however, the mask fell from her face, and she sank down into a chair with a great sigh, and hid her eyes with her hand. When I saw that her high spirits had failed, I at once took advantage of her reaction to make a diagnosis. She said to me very sweetly, I cannot tell you how I loathe talking about myself. I reminded her that a doctor's confidence was sacred, but that you were grievously anxious about her. She caught on to my meaning at once, and settled the matter in a word. Tell Arthur everything you choose. I do not care for myself, but all for him. So I am quite free. I could easily see that she was somewhat bloodless, but I could not see the usual anemic signs, and by a chance I was actually able to test the quality of her blood, for in opening a window, which was stiff, a cord gave way, and she cut her hand slightly with broken glass. It was a slight matter in itself, but it gave me an evident chance, and I secured a few drops of the blood and have analyzed them. The qualitative analysis gives a quite normal condition, and shows, I should infer, in itself a vigorous state of health. In other physical matters, I was quite satisfied that there is no need for anxiety. But as there must be a cause somewhere, I have come to the conclusion that it must be something mental. She complains of difficulty in breathing satisfactorily at times, and of heavy, lethargic sleep, with dreams that frighten her, but regarding which she can remember nothing. She says that as a child she used to walk in her sleep, and that when in Whitby the habit came back, and that once she walked out in the night and went to East Cliff, where Miss Murray found her. But she assures me that of late the habit has not returned. I am in doubt, and so have done the best thing I know of. I have written to my old friend and master, Professor Van Helsing of Amsterdam, who knows as much about obscure diseases as anyone in the world. I have asked him to come over, and as you told me that all things were to be at your charge, I have mentioned to him who you are and your relations to Miss Westenra. This, my dear fellow, is in obedience to your wishes, for I am only too proud and happy to do anything I can for her. Van Helsing would, I know, do anything for me for a personal reason. So, no matter on what ground he comes, we must accept his wishes. He is a seemingly arbitrary man, but this is because he knows what he is talking about better than anyone else. He is a philosopher and a metaphysician, and one of the most advanced scientists of his day, and he has, I believe, an absolutely open mind. This, with an iron nerve, a temper of the ice-brook, an indomitable resolution, self-command and toleration, exalted from virtues to blessings, and the kindliest and truest heart that beats, these form his equipment for the noble work that he is doing for mankind. Work both in theory and practice, for his viewers are as wide as his all-embracing sympathy. I tell you these facts that you may know why I have such confidence in him. I have asked him to come at once. I shall see Miss Westenra tomorrow again. She is to meet me at the stores, so that I may not alarm her mother by too early a repetition of my call. Yours always, John Seward. All right. Yes, that's over here. It's really sad that like Lucy is trying to hide her condition her from her mother, and her mother is trying to hide her condition from her. Which, if I read that earlier thing right, and that they're buried together, like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. All right. I like the verb lunched. We should bring that back. And then I like the mask fell from her face. That if that ain't a mood. And then I like that it's clarified that it's okay that he's telling him this, but something about the phrasing of "so I'm quite free" is funny to me, where it's like, I can tell you any little dirty secret. Come around the campfire. But she is, her fiance, so he should be able to hear any little dirty secret about her, to be fair. And then he correctly notes that she has lost some blood, and also, very fair, correctly notes that she's not anemic. He's doing a good job so far, testing what he needs to test. It's interesting to see a doctor of this time be like, I could test her blood because she cut herself on the window. Granted, I don't know when, like, bleeding people came in and out of fashion. Hi, Cat. You almost scared me there. Hi, Bo. I don't know when like bleeding people came in and out of fashion, but I tend to think like, oh, I need some blood, chink, as opposed to like, I could only get it because she happened to cut herself. Kitty cat, you gonna sit on the chair? Here, I'll try and put the camera down there. He's over here, so you can't see him. Come here, kitty. Come here, kitty cat. Get up there. I don't know if you heard that. It's such a cute little noise. Kitty. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good boy. There's the cutie. Oh, there he is. You're so cute. Splooge. Oh, he's purring too. Here, can I? You're so cute. It's funny, he's not usually the one who comes in here. Usually Bella does, but she's not here. What woke you up? What alerted you that I was over here, Kiki? I am happy for your presence. I am happy. I am happy you are here. Maybe I should stay down here if I can. And okay, I wonder how common that was, that the doctors would be like, well, can't find any like reason for this to be in her body, so it must be mental. And I wonder how often that was right and how often that was wrong. Because in one sense, like, there are a lot of things that are mental that can cause physical problems, but at the same time, I also feel like that could be an issue if, like, you can't find the source, and so you're like, well, it must be in the mind, when there actually is a real physical source. Mental stuff is real too, of course. So I didn't mean to say real like that, but I just meant physical. Anyways, I'm still wondering why she has difficulty breathing and where she is along the timeline. And I could be jumping the gun, because maybe it's just that she's getting her blood stolen, and she has not started the process of becoming a vampire yet. Not really sure. I didn't know that Van Helsing was Seward's master. That is a really interesting thing to learn. I mean, I didn't really know much of anything about Van Helsing. So that's really curious. And the funny thing is, the minute he said, oh, he's my master, that was recommendation enough for me. I didn't need more. I didn't need him to go on a paragraph. But you know what? I don't really mind. Better to have over recommend someone than under recommend them. Oh, kitty, am I invading your space too much? Am I invading your space too much? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, baby. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're so cute. Okay. I'll let you go to sleep on your own terms. Okay. It's interesting that he's a philosopher, a metaphysician, one of the most advanced scientists of his day, and I believe is an absolutely open mind. Love to see it. Funny thing is, and I don't know what this says about me, or if that's a bad thing to think, but I feel like those, each of those fields, like, could narrow your view more and more. I guess it depends on, like, how you view science and stuff like that. So I guess it could be like, I'm really open to different views of the world and different theories. Or it could be like, nope, this is how the world works. I'm not open to other theories and such. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Icebrook is interesting. I don't know if that means like an ice river or something else. I guess I could look it up. Use the define. Well, I get pictures of a brook of ice, so I guess. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. It says surfing video. Don't know what that's about. The Eisbach, a German ice brook, is a 2-kilometer long man-made river. Interesting. Yeah, I really like, this is a fun description. I like that. Iron nerve, temper of the icebrook, indomitable resolution, self-command, toleration exalted from virtues to blessings, and the kindliest and truest heart that beats. Like, man, if I ever got a recommendation that had those terms in it, I would be pretty dang flattered. Right here. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so here we get all the different degrees that he has. And, like, am I correct in thinking that this means he has so many degrees that they're not even listing all of them? Oh, my goodness. All right. Letter. Abraham Van Helsing. MD, D, PH, D, Lit, etc., to John Seward. 2nd of September. My good friends, when I have received your letter, I am already coming to you. By good fortune, I can leave just at once, without wrong to any of those who have trusted me. Were fortune other, then it were bad for those who have trusted. For I come to my friend when he called me to aid those he holds dear. Tell your friend that when that time you suck from my wound so swiftly the poison of the gangrene from that knife from our other friend, too nervous, let slip, you did more for him when he wants my aid, and you call for them than all his great fortune could do. But it is pleasure added to do for him, your friend. It is to you that I come. Have then rooms for me at the Great Eastern Hotel, so that I may be near to hand, and please it so arrange that we may see the young lady not too late on tomorrow, for it is likely that I may have to return here that night. But if need be, I shall come again in 3 days, and stay longer if I must. Till then, goodbye, my friend John Van Helsing. I think you're gonna have to stay a little longer, Van Helsing. Alright, I was going too fast. I need to go... in general, I think I need to read slower, but especially when I'm doing that accent, I need to go slower. I'm not quite sure what he means by this beginning. Like, I think he means, like, I was already on my way. Don't know why he was on his way without him calling. And then I can leave at once without wrong to any of those who have trusted me. I don't know what that means. And then for fortune other, were things different, then it would be bad for those who have trusted me. I don't know. And then he's just like, oh yeah, remember that time that you sucked the gangrene out of my wound because our other friend backstabbed me? Good times, And then, I don't know if this is what he means, but, like, the fact that he says, tell your friend, kind of sounds like, okay, tell Arthur about that time that you sucked the gangrene out of my leg. Remember that? And, like, Seward's like, yeah, I remember. I don't really want to tell my friend about that. And then he just casually is like, the knife of that, our other friend, that it's like, yeah, I totally got betrayed by this friend, and water under the bridge, our other friend, yeah, I did that. And then, so that our other friend too nervous let slip. Oh, I guess it's saying, it's not saying that this person, like, betrayed him and backstabbed him, that it's like he was just, like, fumbling nervously with it and it slipped. Or maybe he was, like, performing surgery and it slipped or something like that. So I guess that's why he can refer to it so casually. So you did more for him, the knife friend or Arthur? Yeah, I don't know what this means. And then I guess it's saying, I'm gonna help. It's good that I come. I'll help your friend, I think. Wouldn't that be nice if you could just be like, hey, arrange it so that, there's hotel rooms for me, that you don't have to do it all yourself. Yes, friend, get my hotel room. I need to do more things that allow me to flap my cloak. Alright. Anywho. September 3rd. Letter Dr. Seward to Honorable Arthur Holmwood. At least I think that means honorable. 3rd of September. My dear Art, Van Helsing has come and gone. Well, that was fast. It came on with me to Hillingham and found that, by Lucy's discretion, her mother was lunching out, so that we were alone with her. Van Helsing made a very careful examination of the patient. He is to report to me, and I shall advise you, for, of course, I was not present all the time. What do you mean, of course? You could have been in the room. He is, I fear, much concerned, but says he must think. I mean, you're concerned too, aren't you? I guess it's more concerning when your mentor is concerned. When I told him of our friendship and how you trust to me in the matter, he said, you must tell him all you think. Tell him what I think, if you can guess it, if you will. Nay, I am not jesting. This is no jest, but life and death, perhaps more. Okay. You have to tell him everything you think. Tell him what I think, if you can guess what I'm thinking. I'm not joking. Okay. I asked what he meant by that. Fair question. For he was very serious. Okay, so he was not like, I'm not joking. It was just a full-on, I'm not joking. This was when we had come back to town, and he was having a cup of tea before starting on his return to Amsterdam. He would not give me any further clue. You must not be angry with me, Art. because his very reticence means that all his brains are working for her good. All his brains! Yeah, he's got a couple of them in jars back at the lab. He's got a spare one in the trunk. All the brains. They're all on it. Oh, I lost my... Oh, there we go. He will speak plainly enough when the time comes, be sure. So I told him I would simply write an account of our visit, just as if I were doing a descriptive special article for the Daily Telegraph. He seemed not to notice, but remarked that the smuts in London were not quite so bad as they used to be when he was a student here. I am to get his report tomorrow, if he can possibly make it. In any case, I am to have a letter. That word must mean something different back then than it does now. I don't want to pull it up on the screen, but I'll see if I can figure out what it used to mean. Well, the first definitions are actually not the modern one that we all think of. So, a small flake of soot or other dirt. So, and then a fungal disease of grains in which parts of the ear to change to black powder. Parts of the ear change to black powder. Ugh, that's gross. So like maybe it's saying all like the soot in London wasn't as bad, but he's talking about like reports, right? Okay, so interesting. This is the definition I was thinking of, but a little more descriptive than I was thinking of. Magazines, books, pictures, movies, or jokes that offend some people because they relate to sex. So I don't think that's what this is, but maybe in the past it was just like, oh yeah, articles that offend people, but it wasn't so narrow in the topic. Let me do a little more. To stain or taint with smut. I assume that means with soot. So, okay, Matter that soils or blackens. Obscene language or matter. Okay, so maybe that is what I was talking about, of that it's anything offensive, that the definition narrowed in modern time, but it's anything. It was anything obscene before? I don't know. The context is strange. I don't know. Why did he have to go so quickly back to Amsterdam? I mean, maybe he has his own practice, but, like, I'm pretty sure he's gonna stay. So, it's weird that it's like, I will come see her. Okay, goodbye. Like, you're not gonna stay a couple days to get a thorough examination? And I don't mean that. That sounded kind of dirty. I didn't mean it that way. You don't need a couple days for all your brains to calibrate? It seems like it's talking about, like, newspapers, but, like, maybe, like, offensive stuff in newspapers? I don't know. Well, as to the visit, Lucy was more cheerful than on the day I first saw her, and certainly looked better. She had lost something of the ghastly look that so upset you, and her breathing was normal. She was very sweet to the professor, as she always is, and tried to make him feel at ease, though I could see that the poor girl was making a hard struggle for it. I believe Van Helsing saw it too, for I saw the quick look under his bushy brows that I knew of old. Then he began to chat of all things except ourselves and diseases, and with such an infinite geniality that I could see poor Lucy's pretense of animation merge into reality. Oh, that's really sweet that it's like, let's not talk about us, let's not talk about diseases, let's cheer her up. Like, that's what a doctor should do. I love that. And I kind of, it's a little bit of an odd phrasing, but I kind of like it, like the idea of like the pretense merge with reality. That's kind of cool. Then, without any seeming change, he brought the conversation gently round to his visit, and suavely said, "My dear young miss, I have the so great pleasure, because you are so much beloved. That is much, my dear. Ever were there that which I do not see. Such as much, my dear. Ever were there that which I do not see. I think he's saying, like, there's a lot I don't see. They told me you were down in the spirit, and that you were of a ghastly pale. Then I say to them, poof, poof, and he snapped his fingers at me, and went on. But you and I shall show them how wrong they are. How can he? And he pointed at me with the same look and gesture as that which one. And he pointed at me with that same look and gesture as that with which, I keep wanting to say as that which once he pointed me out to his class on, or rather after, a particular occasion which he never fails to remind me of. Know anything of a young lady's? He has his madmen to play with, and to bring them back to happiness, and to those that love him. It is much to do. And but there are rewards, in that we can bestow such happiness. But the young ladies, he has no wife or daughter, and the young do not tell themselves to the young, but to the old, like me, who have known so many sorrows and the causes of them. So, my dear, we will send him away to smoke the cigarette in the garden, whilst you and I have a little talk to ourselves. So is he saying, like, oh, I'm quiet? Huh. Oh, no. Does that help? It's weird, because it's at the place it usually is. Let's try and do it over here. How's that? Is that a little bit better? Also, welcome. It is great to see you. Yeah, I will do a little bit more. But yeah, you can let me know, but I'll go back to talking about it for a second. But I think he's like, I know that you like her, so like, get out. Oh, now it's turning red. Now it's saying I'm too loud. Yeah, I think he's saying, like, yeah, he's told me that he likes you, and so I don't think that he should be here in the room. So get out there and smoke a cigarette, Seward. And I'm gonna turn it a little bit down there, so that hopefully it's not going into the red. But how's it seeming now? And then he has his madman to play with. Okay, seems alright. Good. That is such a wild phrasing of, like, go play with your madman. Like, go play with your dolls. Go play with your toy trucks. Go play with your madman, Dr. Seward. That is nice, though, that, like, he's referencing the reason that it's, like, it isn't just go play with your madmen, Seward. It's like there's actually a goal of bring them back to happiness, bring them back to those that love them. That's neat. And so it's like, that's very rewarding, but he doesn't have a wife or daughter. It's more than a hint, Seward. I think it was pretty explicit. Alright. I took the hint and strolled about, and presently the professor came to the window and called me in. He looked grave, but said, I have made careful examination, but there is no functional cause. With you, I agree that there has been much blood loss. It has been, but is not. But the conditions of her are in no way anemic. I have asked her to send me her maid, that I may ask just one or two questions, that so I may not chance to miss nothing. I know well what she was saying, and yet there is cause. There is always cause for everything. I must go back home and think. You must send me the telegram every day, and if there be cause, I shall come again. The disease, for not to be all well is a disease, interests me, and the sweet young dear, she interests me too. To charm me, and for her, if not for you or disease, I come. I like that phrasing. For her, not for you, not for disease, for her. She has a way of charming everybody. She ain't even a vampire, and she is, like, yet. She isn't even a vampire yet, and she is out here charming literally everybody that she comes across, including Dracula. And I'm glad that he isn't going straight to, like, well, it's something in her head. You know, she's going, hey, there's always a cause, which could include something mental, but he's going, hey, there is something going on here. I need to think about it. So, appreciate that. And then I like that phrasing of the disease for not to be all well is a disease. Like, that's kind of a neat phrasing of, like, because I think that's something that people like myself who, like, struggle with mental illness, that one of the struggles with mental illness is, like, so the best way I can describe it is just to talk about there's a Wind Waker episode of Game Grumps where, Dan talks about his struggles with OCD, and then, like, when he talks about getting diagnosed with OCD, Aaron was like, you know, kind of, did you feel like you were crazy? And then Dan is like, actually the opposite. Once I got the diagnosis, I was like, thank God I'm not crazy. And that's, like, exactly how I felt, because thinking that, oh yeah, this is just normal, this is how everybody feels, this sucks, you know, is a much worse feeling than knowing, oh, something's wrong here. Let's go fix that. And so that idea of, like, you're not all well. Let's fix that. I like that. All right. As I tell you, he would not say a word more, even when we were alone. And now, Art, you know all I know. I shall keep stern watch. I trust your poor father is rallying. Must be a terrible thing to you, my dear old fellow, to be placed in such a position between two people who are both so dear to you. I know your idea of duty to your father, and you are right to stick to it. But if need be, I shall send you word to come at once to Lucy, so do not be over-anxious unless you hear from me. Oh man, that is true, that Arthur is in a horrible position. His dad isn't doing well, his fiance isn't doing well, and his potential mother-in-law isn't doing well. Everybody around him, except for his male friends, both of which are in love with his fiance, are doing, nobody except for them is doing okay. And then, man, like, I shall send you word to come at once to Lucy, so don't be over anxious unless you hear from me. In a world of letters where it takes a bit for the information to get to you, that feels less comforting. Because if it was like a phone call where, like, okay, I can be there in 30 minutes, that would be a lot more comforting. But it's like, it's gonna take me a day or more to get the letter, and then a day or more to get to you. Like, not as comforting. Anywho. September 4th. Dr. Seward's diary. 4th of September. Zoophagus patient still keeps up our interest in him. Isn't his name Renfield? Haven't you been calling him by his name the whole time? Like, what's up with that? He had only one outburst, and that was yesterday, at an unusual time. Just before the stroke of noon, he began to grow restless. The attendant knew the symptoms, and at once summoned aid. Fortunately, the men came at a run, and were just in time. For at the stroke of noon, he became so violent that it took all their strength to hold him. In about 5 minutes, however, he began to get more and more quiet, and finally sank into a sort of melancholy, in which state he has remained up to now. The attendant tells me that his screams whilst in the paroxysm were really appalling. I found my hands full when I got in, attending to some of the other patients who were frightened by him. Indeed, I can understand the effect, for the sounds disturbed even me, though I was some distance away. It is now after the dinner hour of the asylum, and as yet my patient sits in a corner brooding, with a dull, sullen, woe-begone look on his face, which seems rather to indicate than to show something directly. I cannot quite understand it. I'm very curious if we're gonna get, like, actual answers to, like, at noon on September the 4th, Dracula did this thing, and so Renfield reacted, or if we're not gonna get any direct answers so direct as that. I don't know if it said something about, like, when Van Helsing was hanging out with Lucy. Well, that was the day before. Unless this is talking about the day before? Oh yeah, yesterday. So it was the 3rd. Yeah, I don't think it says when they were doing that and if that would be related. And then I don't know if that scream was, like, something inhuman or if it's just, like, a really bad, creepy human scream. I'm very, very curious about all this. And that's, like honestly something I didn't fully put together, which is that, like, you see all these, like, images, whether they be fictional or realistic, about asylums around this time of, like, straitjackets and people screaming and shouting and banging on the bars and stuff like that. And it's a horrible image and horrible to think that people who were mentally ill had to deal with that. But I don't know if I quite connected, like, oh my gosh, that would be so much worse. Not just, like, it's one thing if you're mentally ill to be, like, stuck in a cell. It's another thing to be stuck in a cell. Well, honestly, even if you're not mentally ill, it's one thing to be stuck in a cell. It's another thing to have the guy in the cell next to you screaming inhumanly. Like, that is prone to make anybody, no matter if they are mentally ill, physically ill, or perfectly healthy, feel so much worse about where they already are. So, that's pretty horrible. Alright. Later, another change in my patient. At 5 o'clock, I looked in on him, and found him seemingly as happy and contented as he used to be. He was catching flies and eating them, and was keeping note of his capture by making nail marks on the edge of the door, between the ridges of padding. When he saw me, he came over and apologized for his bad conduct, and asked me in a very humble, cringing way to be led back to his own room, and have his notebook again. I thought it well to humour him, so he is back in his room with the window open. What? Seward, why would you do that? Oh my gosh. This man escaped multiple times. Granted, one time you kind of, like, orchestrated it. He escaped at least once when you didn't want him to. He's been eating creatures. He's been eating flies and spiders and birds and such. And he's been screaming and freaking out both you and the other patients. And when he's like, hey, can I go back to my room, please? You're like, sure, buddy, let's leave the window open for you. Dude, what are you doing? Alright. He has the sugar of his tea spread out on the windowsill, and is reaping quite a harvest of flies. He is not now eating them, but putting them into a box, as of old, and is already examining the corners of his room to find a spider. I tried to get him to talk about the past few days, for any clue to his thoughts would be of immense help to me, but he would not rise. For a moment or two, he looked very sad, and said in a sort of far-away voice, as though saying it rather to himself than to me, all over, he's deserted me. No hope for me now, unless I do it for myself. And suddenly, turning to me in a resolute way, he said, Doctor, won't you be very good to me? Let me have a little more sugar. I think it would be good for me. And the flies? I said. Yes, the flies like it too, and I like the flies, therefore I like it. There are people who know so little as to think that madmen do not argue. I procured him a double supply, and left him as happy a man as, I suppose, any in the world. I wish I could fathom his mind. There's a lot to unpack in those last couple lines. What do you mean people say that madmen don't argue? Who is saying that? Who would ever say that? And then it's like, as happy a man as I suppose any in the world. So you think the man who was screaming and crying yesterday is as happy as any in the world? Because press X to doubt, you know? And then, I wish I could fathom his mind. I mean, I know you're a doctor and you're kind of into this stuff. You're playing with your Mad Men today. But I don't really want to be in Renfield's mind. I don't know if I really want to fathom his mind. Alright. Midnight. Another change in him. I had been to see Miss Westenra, whom I found much better, and had just returned, and was starting at our own gate, looking at the sunset, when once more I heard him yelling. See, as his room is on this side of the house, I could hear it better than in the morning. It was a shock to me to turn from the wonderful smoky beauty of a sunset over London, with its lurid lights and inky shadows and all the marvellous tints that come on foul clouds, even as on foul water, and to realize all the grim sternness of my own cold stone building, with its wealth of breathing misery, and my own desolate heart to endure it all. That sentence did not go where I thought it would. First of all, let me look up lurid, because I thought lurid was bad, that it's like, you know, bright, so bright it's ugly kind of thing. Yeah, gruesome, horrible, revolting, glaringly vivid or sensational, shocking, terrible in intensity, fierce passion or unrestrained, lighted or shining with an unnatural fiery glow, wildly or garishly red, wan, pallid, or ghastly in hue, livid. Okay, so I was right. So I thought he was gonna be like, oh, it was a shock to me to turn from, like, the beautiful morning to the man screaming. But it's like, you know, it was a shock to, like, turn from the beautiful morning to, like, wow, you know, my world is kind of sad. It's like, I work in an asylum and it just struck me that it's kind of a sad place to be, you know? Like, really? That just struck you now? Yeah, like, and then foul clouds and even as a foul water are also negative. But I do like that image. Like, all the images in the sentence are really pretty and like, well done and interesting. But it's also just strange that it's like, wonderful smoky beauty with its lurid lights. It's like, okay, those seem to contradict. And inky shadows and all the marvelous tints. Okay, we're back to good. Come on, foul clouds, even on us foul water. Okay, we're back to bad. And then wealth of breathing misery. I love that phrasing. Anywho. I reached him just as the sun was going down, and from his window saw the red disk sink. As it sank, he became less and less frenzied, and just as it dipped, he slid from his hands that held him, an inert mass on the floor. It is wonderful, however, what intellectual recuperative power lunatics have, for within a few minutes he stood up quite calmly and looked round him. I signalled to the attendants not to hold him, for I was anxious to see what he would do. He went straight over to the window and brushed out the crumbs of sugar. Then he took his fly box and emptied it outside and threw away the box. Then he shut the window and, crossing over, sat down on his bed. All this surprised me, so I asked him, "Are you not going to keep your flies any more?" "No," said he. "I'm sick of all that rubbish." He certainly is a wonderfully interesting study. I wish I could get some glimpse of his mind, or of the cause of his sudden passion. Stop. There may be a clue after all. If we can find why today his paroxysms came on at high noon and at sunset, can it be that there is a malign influence of the sun at periods which affect certain natures, as at times the moon does others? We shall see. Yeah, I just realized that, as right before he said it, that it's not that Dracula's doing anything, it's that, like, Renfield, I think, has enough vampire in him to be hurt by the sun. That must be what it is, that when the sun is at the most powerful, it freaks him out, and then when the sun's going down, it's like, okay, I'm good. Okay, I'm good. Yeah. And then, as he slid from the hands that held him, is a weird phrasing when it hasn't been established that anybody else was in the room. And you know what? I'll give him this. I'll give him that one. That I guess that is a thing that madmen are known to do, to be freaking out one second and then completely calm the next. And it's like, yeah, kind of envy that. Don't envy the madness, but I envy the recovery and recovery time. But yeah, interesting. He threw away the entire box and everything. And like, okay, this phrasing, excuse me, this phrasing does make more sense. That it's like, I don't think it's as much that like, oh yeah, I want to be in his head. It's more of like, I don't really get him, and I want to get him. Like, he's a puzzle that I want to figure out more than it is. I would like to be inside his mind. Alright. Okay, I think this one might have rivaled the other short one. Telegram. Seward, London to Van Helsing, Amsterdam. 4th of September. Patient still better today. Not much to say about that one. Another short one. September 5th. Telegram. Seward, London to Van Helsing, Amsterdam. 5th of September. Patient greatly improved. Good appetite. Sleeps naturally. Good spirits. Color coming back. Oh, looks like there's going to be an ad break soon. Is the next one short? It is. Okay. September 6th. Telegram. Seward, London to Van Helsing, Amsterdam. 6th of September. Terrible change for the worse. Come at once. Do not lose an hour. I hold over telegram to Holmwood till have seen you. That was a journey. Going from, yep, she's great. Yep, she's great. It's awful. It's horrible. Come at once. That probably honestly happened quite a lot at this time. And again, is everybody gonna get there in time? Although I just realized you're a subscriber, right? So you don't see ads. So am I good to just keep going throughout the ad? I'll still show the cat while I'm waiting. Oh, you did just answer. No ads for me. Gotcha. Well, there's a glimpse of the kitty. Alright, we can continue on then. Alright. Letter. Dr. Seward to Honourable Arthur Holmwood. 6th of September. My dear Art, my news today is not so good. Lucy this morning had gone back a bit. There is, however, one good thing which has arisen from it. Mrs. Westenra was naturally anxious concerning Lucy, and has consulted me professionally about her. I took advantage of the opportunity, and told her that my old master, Van Helsing, the great specialist, was coming to stay with me, and that I would put her in his charge conjointly with myself. So now we can come and go without alarming her unduly, for a shock to her would mean sudden death, and this, in Lucy's weak condition, might be disastrous to her. We are hedged in with difficulties, all of us, my poor old fellow. Please God, we shall come through them all right. If any need, I shall write, so that if you do not hear from me, take it for granted that I am simply waiting for news. In haste, yours ever, John Seward. He did a pretty good job of that, I think. Like, because he wasn't just like, because with Van Helsing, he's like, everything's horrible, come at once. And I expected the same thing to Arthur, but he was gentler with him and was like, you know, hey, like, hopefully we're gonna get through this okay, old buddy. Oh yeah, and even Seward knows about that. How does I guess Dr. Seward knows about it because he's her doctor. He's the default doctor of the family. But again, like, everybody knows but Lucy. Like, oh, it's painful. And then that is a good thing to add at the end, that it's like, hey, if you don't hear from me, like, take it that I'm just waiting for news. So, like, great thing to add at the end of your letter. Even today, like, if you're, like, sending some, like, risky texts or, like, scary things like this, that it's like, hey, if you don't hear from me, just waiting for news. Love that. Alright. September 7th. Dr. Seward's diary. 7th of September. The first thing Van Helsing said to me when we met at Liverpool Street was, "Have you said anything to our young friend, the lover of her?" What? "No," I said. "I waited till I had seen you, as I said in my telegram. I wrote him a letter, simply telling him that you were coming, as Miss Westenra was not so well, and that I should let him know if need be." Okay, so he's saying the friend, Arthur, Lucy's lover. Okay, got you. "Right, my friend," he said. "Quite right. Better he not know as yet. Perhaps he shall never know. I pray so. But if it be needed, then he shall know all. And, my good friend John, let me caution you. You deal with the madmen. All men are mad in some way or the other. And inasmuch as you deal discreetly with your madmen, so deal with God's madmen too, the rest of the world. You tell not your madmen what you do, nor why you do it. You tell them not what you think. So you shall keep knowledge in its place, where it may rest, where it may gather its kind around it and breed. You and I shall keep as yet what we know here, and here," he touched me on the heart and on the forehead, and then touched himself in the same way, "I have for myself thoughts at the present. Later I shall unfold to you." "Why not now?" I asked. "It may do some good. We may arrive at some decision." He stopped and looked at me and said, "My friend John, when the corn is grown, even before it has ripened, while the milk of its mother earth is in him, and the sunshine has not yet begun to paint him with—" What in the world? Is there a raid here? Whoa! A raid with a party of 18? How awesome is that? Welcome, welcome, all the glitter bombs. I am one of the, granted, I probably wouldn't like a glitter bomb arriving just at my door, but I'm one of the few people who actually likes glitter, so I'm a fan of this. Welcome, everybody. So, if you don't know, I'm reading Dracula. I have reached the part in Dracula that I've never read before, so I am reacting to things for the first time. We're going through the September entries. I doubt that we'll get through all of September today, but we're gonna get through what I can before it's time to go to bed. So, great to see you guys, and hunker down for some good Dracula fun. Ooh, nice. So you're doing poetry on my stream. I read some Poe as well, so this is perfect to bring the group here. Oh, that's awesome. Let me write your name down. I'll see you in the in the VOD, but I'll have to check out your channel. But thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate that. But anywho, let us go back to the beginning of the paragraph. My friend John, when the corn is grown, even before it has ripened, while the milk of its mother earth is in him, and the sunshine has not yet begun to paint him with his gold, the husbandman he pulls the ear and wrap him between his rough hands, and blow away the green chaff, and say to you, "Look, he's good corn. He will make good crop when the time comes." I did not see the application, and told him so. For reply, he reached over and took my ear in his hand and pulled it playfully, as he used long ago to do at lectures, and said, "The good husbandman tells you so, then because he knows, but not... The good husbandman tells you so then because he knows, but not till then. But you do not find the good husbandman dig up his planted corn to see if he grow. That is for the children who play at husbandry, and not for those who take it as of the work of their life. See you now, friend John? I have sown my corn, and nature has her work to do in making it sprout, if it sprout at all. There's some promise, and I wait till the ear begins to swell." He broke off, for he evidently saw that I understood. Then he went on, and very gravely, "You were always a careful student, and your casebook was ever more full than the rest. You were only student then. Now you are master, and I trust that good habits have not failed. Remember, my friend, that knowledge is stronger than memory, and we should not trust the weaker. Even if you have not kept the good practice, let me tell you that this case of our dear miss is one that may be, mind, I say, may be, of such interest to us and others, that all the rest may not make him kick the beam, as your people say. Take the good note of it. Nothing is too small. I counsel you, put down in record even your doubts and surmises. Hereafter, it may be of interest to you to see how true you guess. We learn from failure, not from success. Oh man, I love Van Helsing. I totally get. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about him, but what I've heard, people seem to like him, and I totally get it. Also, what do you mean kick the beam? What does that mean? I don't know. Okay, let me pull it up on my phone. That's not helping. Will dictionary.com tell me? Kick the beam. Well, dictionary.com is not telling me. Does he mean, like, let's see. To rise up and strike the beam, said of the lighter arm of a loaded balance, hence to be found lacking in weight or of little importance. What? Oh, there we go. Thank you. I got this from a website that apparently is called Info, please. That is what I'm looking for. To be of lightweight, to be of inferior consequence. When one pan of a pair of scales is lighter than the other, it flies upwards and is said to kick the beam of the scales. Okay, so it is an idiom. Okay. So, let's see. Let me tell you, this case of our dear miss is one that may be of such interest to us that all the rest may not make him kick the beam, as your people say. So, like, she's so important that the other cases are not important. The other cases go up. Interesting. Okay, let's go back up here. I do love the all men are mad in some way or another. That's great. And, like, I assume he means, like, all of humanity. All of humanity is mad in some way or other. And I would agree with that. I love that. And then I love the deal with you discreetly with your madmen. Let's deal with God's madmen discreetly too. I love that. And then very fair, like you let's not, like, reveal too much knowledge at once. That is fair. And then this is cute. I like the little motion. I have for myself thoughts at the present. I have thoughts. I will tell you them later. And fair reaction. And then I love that he goes on a tangent about corn. That is fantastic. And so I think he's talking about the knowledge thing where it's like, if you like try to pull the corn up before it's time, then I think he's saying, like, you'll basically kill the corn. So if you say the knowledge before it's time, then you're going to do some damage, I think. And then, like, this is very cute too. Like, his mannerisms are very great, very cute. Oh yeah, and he tells you then because he knows. Like, he knows it's good corn, but he doesn't tell you that the corn is good until he knows it's good. Knowledge is stronger than memory. That's interesting. So I guess it's just like memory can fail you. You can't always trust your memories, but knowledge is, like, fact is true, is stronger than that. Oh, yes. Thanks, Desed. So, yes, I'll just read what Desed said. If any of the Raiders are interested, we do weekly microfiction writing based on a community-voted prompt. This week is Far From Home. Yes, so if any of you are writers, are interested in writing, we have a prompt every week, and we all write 350-word microfiction for said prompt. And then at the end of the week on Saturday, I stream reading some of the entries from the week. So, can you grab the link to the Discord for them, or shall I? But either way, we can get the Discord for you guys, so you can check that out if you are interested. But anyway. And then we learn from failure, not from success. Very true. I love that. Thank you, Death said. Appreciate that. Okay. When I described Lucy's symptoms, the same as before, but infinitely more marked, he looked very grave, but said nothing. He took with him a bag in which were many instruments and drugs. The ghastly paraphernalia of our beneficial trade, as he once called in one of his lectures, the equipment of a professor of the healing craft. That's great, too. I love that it's like, maybe I don't love the equipment, but the stuff that we do with it is good. And ghastly and beneficial are such evocative words, so that's great. When we were shown in, Mrs. Westenra met us. She was alarmed, but not nearly so much as I expected to find her. Nature, in one of her beneficent moods, has ordained that even death has some antidote to its own terrors. Here, in a case where any shock may prove fatal, matters are so ordered that, from some cause or other, the thing's not personal, even the terrible change in her daughter, to whom she is so attached, do not seem to reach her. It is something like the way Dame Nature gathers round a foreign body an envelope of some insensitive tissue which can protect from evil that which it would otherwise harm by contact. If this be an ordered selfishness, then we should pause before we condemn anyone for the vice of egoism, for there may be a deeper root for its causes than we have knowledge of. Wait, this kind of goes back to what he was saying like a while ago about yes, like Renfield thinks he's the center of the universe. I envy him, or something like that. That it was like, he says there's some like benefit to that selfishness or something. And so he seems to have an interest in that topic. But the way he says it is like, if this be an ordered selfishness, like this might be selfish. Wait, let's pause before we condemn her. Let's pause before we say it's selfish. And it's like, you're the only one who said it was selfishness, Seward. Alright. Squeeze says, such a cool idea. Sorry to raid and fade. I gotta get some sleeps, but I got you tabbed. Have a wonderful rest of the stream. That's very sweet and very understandable. I do that all the time, but it was so wonderful to have you. Thank you for hanging out. Alrighty. I like Dame Nature instead of Mother Nature. That's great. Okay. Let's go back over this. Even death as an antidote to its own terrors. That's interesting. Yeah, this feels concerning. that actually doesn't feel like a good thing. So I guess it's saying like when you go numb, that like it being numb isn't a great thing, but it does protect you from like things that might hurt you otherwise. Interesting. Alright. Yes, as I said before, I have not read it in fullness yet, but I'm greatly enjoying it so far. Art. I used my knowledge of this phrase of spiritual pathology and laid down a rule that she should not be present with Lucy or think of her illness more than was absolutely required. She assented readily, so readily that I saw again the hand of nature fighting for life. Van Helsing and I were shown up to Lucy's room. Okay. If I was shocked when I saw her yesterday, I was horrified when I saw her today. She was ghastly, chalkily pale. The red seemed to have gone even from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out prominently. Her breathing was painful to see or hear. Van Helsing's face grew set as marble, and his eyebrows converged until they almost touched over his nose. Lucy lay motionless, and did not seem to have strength to speak, so for a while we were all silent. Then Van Helsing beckoned to me, and we went gently out of the room. The instant we had closed the door, he stepped quickly along the passage to the next door, which was open. Then he pulled me quickly in with him and closed the door. "My God," he said, "this is dreadful. There is no time to be lost. She will die for sheer want of blood, and to keep the heart's action as it should be. There must be transfusion of blood at once. Is it you or me?" I love that. I don't know if he's saying, "Are you administering it or am I?" But that sounds like, okay, who's giving the blood? You or me? Go. That is the attitude to have. I love that. And I was right. I said that I thought there was a blood transfusion in this book with Lucy, and apparently there is. All right. Also feels kind of weird that it's like, oh my gosh, like she laying there, she pale, she's barely breathing. Let's leave. Like, let's leave the room. Like, doesn't necessarily seem like the right move, but I guess he has a plan. I guess he has a plan to do the transfusion to save her. Though come to think of it, why didn't they do this earlier? Because they knew that she was losing blood. They were like, she's clearly lost blood, but she's not anemic. But she lost blood is still there. So, that should mean that you should maybe already be doing something about it. Like, I don't know how new blood transfusions were. Maybe they were super new and they don't want to do it until they absolutely have to. Oh yeah, I was also gonna say, like, I don't know how I feel about them, like, tiptoeing around the mom, though granted, maybe they're doing it less now, because on the one hand, it's like, it's nice, because they're like, oh, we don't want her to die, so, like, let's be gentle. But on the other hand, it's like, she probably wants to know what's going on, so, like, maybe you shouldn't be walking on eggshells so much and, like, keeping everything secret from her. Maybe there's a middle ground where you don't tell her the full extent of the horrors happening, but you give her some info. I guess maybe that is what they're doing. But anyways, something about this phrasing, like, I know it's just saying that, like, oh, he's, like, super duper concerned, but something about the specificity of his eyebrows, they almost touched over his nose. It's like, Lucy's laying there dying, and you're talking about Van Helsing's eyebrows. This says, the first attempts at blood transfusion started in the 1600s, but no one knew what they were doing, so this is kind of dangerous pseudoscience here. Gotcha. Well, isn't this in the 1800s? So a couple hundred years after they started, right? Unless, like, this was written in the 1800s but took place in the 1600s, which I didn't think it was, but I don't remember for sure. All right. Okay, that's sounding like it. He is talking about he's gonna give the blood. Oh yeah, that was actually, yes, just it says, they didn't know about blood type, yes, that, yet. Yeah, that was something I was gonna ask about, that it's like, well, is it you or me? Well, are either of you her blood type? Because that's kind of what matters here. And yeah, like, they don't know. They don't know about that. So that makes sense. All right. I am younger and stronger, Professor. It must be me. Then get ready at once. I will bring up my bag. I am prepared. I went downstairs with him, and as we were going there was a knock at the hall door. Okay. When we reached the hall, the maid had just opened the door, and Arthur was stepping quickly in. He rushed up to me, saying in an eager whisper, "Jack, I was so anxious. I read between the lines of your letter, and have been in agony. The dad? Okay, the dad. The dad was better, so I ran down here to see for myself. Is not that gentleman Dr. Van Helsing? I am so thankful to you, sir, for coming. When first the professor's eye had lit upon him, he had been angry at his interruption at such a time. But now, as he took in his stalwart proportions, and recognized the strong young manhood which seemed to emanate from him, his eyes gleamed. Without a pause, he said to him gravely, as he held out his hand, "Sir, you have come in time. You are the lover of our dear miss. She is bad, very, very bad. Nay, my child, do not go like that." For he suddenly grew pale and sat down in a chair, almost fainting. "You are to help her. You can do more than any that live, and your courage is your best help." So it's like, she's bad, she's really, really bad. Oh gosh. And he faints. It's like, no, don't do that. Very natural reaction of Van Helsing to at least sit down and go pale. You didn't soften the blow like Seward did. And granted, maybe I read Seward's letter before wrong, because I was like, oh, at least he softened the blow for him. But then here he is going, I read between the lines, and I know it's horrible. I feel like, let me look over there, because I feel like, what day was this? September 7th. Cause like the dad doesn't feel right. It feels like I copied that down wrong. The Dracula Daily title on this one is "Look, he's good corn." Okay. Yeah, it says the dad was better. Okay. So if that's wrong, that's not on me. Okay. And then it's like, yes, he was frustrated, but then he saw he was an absolute beefcake and was ready to go. Then he was happy about it. It's like, why do his portions matter? I guess it's because it's like, you're a strong lad. You can give blood. So I guess that's what it's about. But there's something funny about, like, at first he was mad at the interruption, but then he saw that he was a stalwart man with strong young manhood. All right. "What can I do?" asked Arthur hoarsely. "Tell me, and I shall do it. My life is hers, and I would give the last drop of blood in my body for her." Good, because that's kind of what we're asking. The professor has a strongly humorous side, and I could, from old knowledge, detect a trace of its origin in his answer. "My young sir, I do not ask so much as that. Not the last." "What shall I do?" There was fire in his eyes, and his open nostril quivered with intent. That's a sentence. Van Helsing slapped him on the shoulder. "Come," he said. "You are a man, and it is a man we want." Is Seward not a man? I see the next line. "You are better than me, better than my friend John." Arthur looked bewildered, and the professor went on by explaining in a kindly way. "Young miss is bad. Very bad." Stop saying that, Van Helsing. "Young miss is bad, very bad. She wants blood, and blood she must have or die. My friend John and I have consulted, and we are about to perform what we call transfusion of blood, to transfer from full veins of one to the empty veins which pine for him. John was to give his blood, as he is the more young and strong than me." Here Arthur took my hand and wrung it hard in silence. "But now you are here, and you are more good than us, old or young, who toil much in the world of thought. Our nerves are not so calm, and our blood not so bright as yours." Arthur turned to him and said, If you only knew how gladly I would die for her, you would understand." He stopped, with a sort of choke in his voice. "Good boy," said Van Helsing. "In the not so far off, you will be happy that you have done all for her you love. Come now and be silent. You shall kiss her once before it is done, but then you must go, and you must leave at my sign. Say no word to Madame. You know how it is with her. There must be no shock. Any knowledge of this would be one. Come." Okay. So there's something about him just like taking his hand and being like, you know, that kind of thing. I'm sure that's what it is. That's like, oh yeah, he's stronger than me. Good boy. But how I was just talking about how it's like, is Seward not a man? It kind of read like he like tries to go and shake his hand and then it's just a noodle. It's just a weak little noodle that's like, look at this man. He can't give enough blood. But you're a strapping beefcake of a man. You can do it. You got that sniffer, yeah. Oh boy. I like that phrase, which pine for him. I don't know enough about German or Dutch is not the name for the language, is it? Or is it? I'm not sure. I don't know enough about those languages to know if they like refer to everything in like gendered ways, but this is sounding like that is how it is, which is very cute in English. And then there's something about, like, if only you knew how gladly I would die for her, you would understand. And then Van Helsing's like, good boy! It almost sounds like he's happy about him getting choked up. But, like, I'm sure he's just saying, yes, you're doing your job, you die for her, wonderful. We wouldn't like you to die for her, but it's good you have that mentality. But it seems like it's like, good job getting choked up, good job feeling the tears. Yeah, German is a tri-gendered language, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Gotcha. Alright. Oh yeah, then Madame is the mom. I thought it was Lucy for a second, so that must be a higher tier way to refer to her. We all went up to Lucy's room. Arthur, by direction, remained outside. Lucy turned her head and looked at us, but said nothing. Right now, I'm just imagining, like, I forget if they said she was, like, on the floor, but I'm imagining she's just, like, laying on the floor, barely breathing, white as a sheet, like, Lucy turned her head to us! But said nothing. Yeah! She was not asleep, but she was simply too weak to make the effort. Her eyes spoke to us. That was all. Hello, Bella. Hello, Bella.
Nice of you to stop by. Oh, goodness. This is Bella.
All right. Van Helsing took some things from his bag and laid them on a little table out of sight. Then he mixed a narcotic, and coming over to the bed, said cheerily, "Now, little miss, here is your medicine. Drink it off like a good child. See, I left you so that to swallow it is easy. Yes." She had made the effort with success. It astonished me how long the drug took to act. This, in fact, marked the extent of her weakness. The time seemed endless, until sleep began to flicker in her eyelids. At last, however, the narcotic began to manifest its potency, and she fell into a deep sleep. When the professor was satisfied, he called Arthur into the room, and bade him strip off his coat. Then he added, "You may take that one little kiss, whilst I bring you over the table. Friend John, help to me." I love that. "Friend John, help to me." To me, John, help. So neither of us looked whilst he bent over her. Van Helsing, turning to me, said, "He is so young and strong, and of blood so..." I can't do it. I know that... Okay, I'll calm down. Read the sentence. "He is so young and strong, and of blood so pure, that we need not defibrillate it." I get that it's, this is the important part, that it's like, hey, he's strong enough that we don't have to do, what is this? I want, remove fibrin from the blood.
Okay, you want on the table? Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes. So I get that that's the important part, that we don't need to remove the fiber from the blood, but it's just like, he is so young and so strong, and his blood is so pure, and it's like, Van Helsing, stop thirsting after Arthur. And like I said before, I know that he's not into, like, I'm sure that it is not meant to be read that he is into Arthur in that way, but he is just going on too long about what a strapping man that Arthur is, that it's really funny. Yes, fluffy kitty, noisy kitty, indeed. Also, I don't know if you saw him before, but here is my other kitty, sleeping very peacefully. This is Beau, B-E-A-U, Beau, and then that one's Bella. You can't see her, but the one that I was holding before is Bella. Two kitties, yes. Alright. Then with swiftness, but with absolute method, Van Helsing performed the operation. As the transfusion went on, something like life seemed to come back to poor Lucy's cheeks, and through Arthur's growing pallor, the joy of his face seemed absolutely to shine. After a bit, I began to grow anxious, for the loss of blood was telling on Arthur, strong man as he was. Now you got Seward onto it! It gave me an idea of what a terrible strain Lucy's system must have undergone, that what weakened Arthur only partially restored her. But the professor's face was set, and he stood watch in hand, and with his eyes fixed now on the patient and now on Arthur. I could hear my own heart beat. And presently he said in a soft voice, "Do not stir an instant. It is enough. You attend him. I will look to her." When all was over, I could see how much Arthur was weakened. I dressed the wound and took his arm to bring him away, when Van Helsing spoke without turning around. The man seems to have eyes in the back of his head. "The brave lover, I think, deserves another kiss, which he shall have presently." I was gonna say, didn't you say it would happen afterwards? So I guess he gave him an extra kiss. Another point in Van Helsing's favor. He lets you have extra kisses. Alright. And as he had now finished his operation, he adjusted the pillow to the patient's head. As he did so, the narrow black velvet band, which she seems always to wear around her throat, buckled with an old diamond buckle which her lover had given her, was dragged a little up and showed a red mark on her throat. Why was this not mentioned earlier? We were talking about the shawl and the pinpricks and everything. Were we not talking about how there's a band always around her neck? The fact that it's only mentioned here makes it seem like it's there for convenience, that it's like, oh yes, we have to mention why they didn't see the fang marks. Anyways, but yeah, I'm very curious, because like I've been talking about, I'm not sure where Lucy is in the process, because I was like, is she already becoming a vampire or something? This is making it seem like she's not, that she's just been drinking from a lot. And so it's interesting. And granted, I guess I don't know for sure if, like, the vampire giving the victim their own blood in this universe is what turns them into a vampire, but I'm kind of assuming that's how it works. So if that is how it works, it's interesting that he has not done that yet. That, like, she's already almost dead, and he has not offered her his own blood to restore her and turn her into a vampire. You have a void, kitty. Awesome. I mean, if you're in the Discord, you can send a picture in the stream chat. I'd love to see your void, kitty. Yeah, I do like the that line of it, giving an idea of what a terrible strain Lucy's system must have undergone, that what weakened Arthur only partially restored her. Good description there. Arthur did not notice it, but I could hear the deep hiss of indrawn breath, which is one of Van Helsing's way of betraying emotion. He said nothing at the moment, but turned to me, saying, "Now take down our brave young lover, give him of the port wine, and let him lie down a while. He must then go home and rest, sleep much, and eat much, that he may be recruited of what he has so given to his love. He must not stay here. Hold a moment. I may take it, sir, that you are anxious of result. Then bring it with you that in all ways the operation is successful. You have saved her life this time, and you can go home and rest easy in mind that all that can be is. I shall tell her all when she is well. She shall love you none the less for what you have done. Goodbye." I take it that you're anxious of the result. Well, yeah. Oh, yes, you have your kitty emote. Lovely. But anyways, all that can be is. True. Kind of like the phrasing, but it's one of those that's like a tautology, right? That one of those things that like says nothing. Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, oh, is that the kitty that has passed on? I'm so sorry. But it is nice to at least have her emote bring life to, bring her, to where all the channels that you go to. When Arthur had gone, I went back to the room. Lucy was sleeping gently, but her breathing was stronger. I could see the counterpane move as her breast heaved. By the bedside sat Van Helsing, looking at her intently. The velvet band again covered the red mark. He asked the professor in a whisper, "What do you make of that mark on her throat?" "What do you make of it?" "I have not examined it yet," I answered, and then and there proceeded to loose the band. Just over the external jugular vein, there were 2 punctures. Not large, but not wholesome looking. That's quite the phrase. Not wholesome looking. I don't know if that means, like, it doesn't look healthy. It doesn't look good. Or if it's something else. If it's, like, they don't look whole. I don't know, but it's like, there's bite marks on her mouth, and that ain't wholesome. It's like, yeah. Ooh, I sent in Gen chat. Okay, let me check that out.
Oh, cute kitty.
Very precious. What is Kitty's name? Alright. There's no sign of disease, but the edges were white and worn-looking, as if by some trituration. It at once occurred to me that this wound, or whatever it was, might be the means of that manifest loss of blood. But I abandoned the idea as soon as formed, for such a thing could not be. The whole bed would have been drenched to a scarlet with the blood, which the girl must have lost to leave such a pallor as she had before the transfusion. I mean, can't you kind of tell that it's a bite mark? Like, wouldn't you be like, kind of looks like, snake fangs or something like that. Like, why would you be like, we examined her. Nothing else seemed to be the cause of her loss of blood. She doesn't seem anemic. Oh, there's 2 small puncture marks on her neck. Maybe this is how she lost the blood. Nah. It's like, I feel like you can and should be thinking about that a little bit harder. Kind of thing. Oh, there's Princess. Very cute. I didn't realize that Princess was an outdoor cat. Gigi, that is a cute name for a cat. Okay, what does this word mean? Grind to a fine powder. What? That doesn't seem right. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Origin mid-18th century from Latin triturat, of corn threshed. It all comes back to corn. From tritura, rubbing, from the verb terere. Okay, so it's like from, as if they were rubbed, probably from the choker around her neck. Let her out a lot during your last week. There's nothing else I could really do for her. That's really fair. I'm glad that she was able to have some fun times out in the world. Well, said Van Helsing. Well, said I can make nothing of it. The professor stood up. I must go back to Amsterdam tonight, he said. There are books and things there which I want. You must remain here all the night, and you must not let your sight pass from her. I was gonna mention that earlier, that it's like, she told you that she sleepwalks, and she told you that she went all the way to the, what did they say, like the East End or something? They went to the graveyard. And then it's like, I'll leave her. It's like, at least, like, I get that you're a man and you can't, like, hang around a lady, especially a lady that you're in love with, at night, but, recruit a female friend, you know, if Mina's not around, like, find somebody, or, like, try to recruit the mom if you can. Do something about that. That, again, should be of note. Aw. Ghostly things. It says she's 11 and she was named after the cat from the movie Kiki's Delivery Service. She was named from her mother, who I am no longer with. I got the cat because she loved me more. Nice. Oh, that's great. That's even more fun knowing it's named after Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service. Bella, are you... She's looking like she wants to... I don't know that you can see her. She's looking like she wants to jump up with Bo.
Here, Timu. I can let you back on the desk. Would you like that?
Alright. And I'm sure that he means, like, you know, there are books there I want because, like, they pertain to what we are seeing on her neck. But it almost sounds like, I'm going back to Amsterdam. I need to get my reading time in. Alright. When kitties steal your seat, yes. Alright. Yeah, that's another option. A nurse, exactly. You could have gotten a nurse earlier. Yeah, actually, you know, this is... Doctor leaves Renfield's window open, Seward. So I guess it kind of makes sense that he's like, she's sleepwalking at night. Well, going back home, you know? Alright, shall I have a nurse? I asked. We are the best nurses, you and I. You keep watch all night. See that she is well fed, and that nothing disturbs her. You must not sleep all the night. Later on, we can sleep, you and I. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we may begin. May begin? I said. What on earth do you mean? We shall see, he answered as he hurried out. He came back a moment later and put his head inside the door and said, with warning finger held up, Remember, she is your charge. If you leave her, and harm befall, you shall not sleep easy hereafter. Oh, he's great. And so I guess I was wrong. I guess even though he is a man, he is allowed to be with her because of presumably the extenuating circumstances. But good on them for being like, hey, you need to watch her. And then I love then we may begin. May begin? What do you mean? We shall see. Oh, that's great. Yes, it is oddly hilarious. I don't know if Bram Stoker meant it to be as hilarious as it is, but it certainly is. And then I love the, like, remember, if you don't watch her well, you'll never sleep again. Okay, bye! Alright, that was one of the longer ones. I don't think it's as long as some of the later September ones, though. Alright. September 8th. Dr. Seward's diary. 8th of September. I sat up all night with Lucy. The opiate worked itself off towards dusk, and she waked naturally. She looked a different being from what she had been before the operation. Her spirits even were good, and she was full of happy vivacity, but I could see evidences of the absolute prostration which she had undergone. When I told Mrs. Westenra that Dr. Van Helsing had directed that I should sit up with her, she almost pooh-poohed the idea, pointing out her daughter's renewed strength and excellent spirits. I was firm, however, and made preparations for my long vigil. When her maid had prepared her for the night, I came in, having in the meantime had supper, and took a seat by the bedside. She did not in any way make objection, but looked at me gratefully whenever I caught her eye. After a long spell, she seemed sinking off to sleep. With an effort, seemed to pull herself together and shook it off. This was repeated several times, with greater effort, and with shorter pauses as the time moved on. It was apparent that she did not want to sleep, so I tackled the subject at once. You do not want to sleep? No, I'm afraid. Afraid to go to sleep? Why so? It is the boon we all crave for. Oh, I was about to say, oh, you're afraid to go to sleep? You, who just, A, who sleepwalks, B, who went through this terrible ordeal? What in the world? How could you be afraid? And then the other thing, it's how could you be afraid to sleep? Sleep is amazing. Everybody loves sleep. We all want sleep. And it's okay, that is fair. Sleep is pretty great. Yeah. Not if you were like me. If sleep was to you a presage of horror. A presage of horror? What on earth do you mean? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. And that is what is so terrible. All this weakness comes to me in sleep, until I dread the very thought. But, my dear girl, you may sleep tonight. I am here watching you, and I can promise that nothing will happen. I can trust you. I seized the opportunity and said, I promise you that if I see any evidence of bad dreams, I will wake you at once. You will? Oh, will you really? How good you are to me. Then I will sleep. Almost at the word, she gave a deep sigh of relief and sank back, asleep. That is fair. That is fair. Completely, that is an interaction that makes complete sense. It's hey, sleep is horrible. I get nightmares. Well, you know what? I'm going to watch over you and wake you up if you have nightmares. Oh, thank goodness. Falls back asleep. Oh, you don't like sleep? Interesting. Why don't you like sleep? Do you also have, what did she call it, a presage of horror in your sleep? Also, I doubt that it will happen, but it would be pretty hilarious if Seward has to have a showdown with Dracula. That it's oh yeah, I'll wake you if you have nightmares, and then the very real nightmare walks in, creeps in the window, and Seward has to defend himself with a lamp. Gotcha, that's fair. Leslie says, feels like a great time wasted. That is fair. I am with you there, that there are definitely nights where, especially if I'm not tired, I'm just but I could do so much more if I didn't have to go to sleep. Alright. All night long I watched by her. She never stirred, but slept on in deep, tranquil, life-giving, health-giving sleep. Her lips were slightly parted, and her breast rose and fell with the regularity of a pendulum. There was a smile on her face, and it was evident that no bad dreams had come to disturb her peace of mind. In the early morning, her maid came, and I left her in her care and took myself back home, for I was anxious about many things. I sent a short wire to Van Helsing and to Arthur, telling them the excellent result of the operation. My own work, with its manifold arrears, took me all day to clear off. It was dark when I was able to inquire about my zoophagous patient. The report was good. He had been quite quiet for the past day and night. A telegram came from Van Helsing at Amsterdam whilst I was at dinner, suggesting that I should be at Hillingham tonight, and it might be well to be at hand, and stating that he was leaving by the night by the night mail and would join me. Oh, I see. And stating he was leaving by the night mail would join me early in the morning. Why has he suddenly switched to calling Renfield the zoophagous patient? Like, he suddenly has put distance between himself and Renfield, and he didn't seem, like, so scared of him that he would do that. So, that's weird. Let's see. And you know what, like, granted, like, he's thinking about her breast, but I feel like that is more of just like, her chest rose and fell, and it's just using that word. So I compliment Seward for not thinking dirty thoughts. Or at least if he was thinking dirty thoughts, he didn't report them to us. So good on him for just actually sitting there and doing his job. And also not falling asleep. So that's great. Oh, interesting. So there is a reason that he is not referring to him as Renfield anymore. Gotcha. And thank you for not spoiling it. Just being like, it will make sense. It will make sense later. Alright. September 9th. Dr. Seward's diary. 9th of September. I was pretty tired and worn out when I got to Hillinghamn. For 2 nights, I had hardly a wink of sleep. My brain was beginning to feel that numbness which marks cerebral exhaustion. Lucy was up and in cheerful spirits. When she shook hands with me, she looked sharply in my face and said, "No sitting up tonight for you. You are worn out. I'm quite well again. Indeed I am. And if there is to be any sitting up, it is I who will sit up with you." I would not argue the point, but went and had my supper. Lucy came with me, and, enlivened by her charming presence, I made an excellent meal, and had a couple of glasses of more than excellent port. Then Lucy took me upstairs, and showed me a room next to her own, where a cosy fire was burning. "Now," she said, "you must stay here. I shall leave this door open, and my door too. You can lie on the sofa, for I know that nothing would induce any of you doctors to go to bed whilst there is a patient above the horizon. If I want anything, I shall call out, and you can come to me at once." I could not but acquiesce, for I was dog-tired, and could not have sat up had I tried. So, on her renewing her promise to call me if she should want anything, I lay on the sofa and forgot all about everything. That's a great way to describe sleep. I forgot all about everything. Ruining books is literally the worst. Indeed. It's so funny what, sayings they had back then, because this feels very modern. And the poo-poo one is interesting because it's like that is like an older feeling one, but also a modern feeling one. Not one I expected to see show up in here. But anyway, so, and like, bad things. I think bad things are about to happen. It's like, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna leave my door open. Like, oh yeah, you think that's a good idea, huh? Like, I don't know if Mina didn't tell her, like, the extent of what she had to do. Be like, okay, I had to put the key on my wrist, close the door, lock the door, snuggle with you, all those things. But it's like, not a good idea. I get why she wants him to sleep, and I get that she's like, I feel better. I'm gonna be fine. I have hope. But, prime Dracula time. Alright. And then I love enlivened by her charming presence, I made an excellent meal. It's like, she gave me a boost to my cooking skills.
Hello, Kitty. Are you back? Hello, Bella.
Meow. Alright. Oh, we get to actually hear from Lucy. Lucy Westenra's diary, 9th of September. I feel so happy tonight. I've been so miserably weak that to be able to think and move about is like feeling sunshine after a long spell of east wind out of a steel sky. Somehow Arthur feels very, very close to me. I seem to feel his presence warm about me. I suppose it is that sickness and weakness are selfish things and turn our inner eyes and sympathy on ourselves. will health and strength give love reign, and in thought and feeling he can wander where he wills. I know where my thoughts are. If only Arthur knew. My dear, your ears must tingle as you sleep, as mine do waking. Oh, the blissful rest of last night, and how I slept, with that dear good Dr. Seward watching me. And tonight I shall not fear to sleep, since he is close at hand and within call. Thank everybody for being so good to me. Thank God. Good night, Arthur. Hydrate, thanks. Appreciate that. I have I don't know if you can see it, but I have like a Halloween-y mug. I have another one that's a little more Halloween-y. Let's see. And I'm guessing like it's just talking about that the book is referring to like his blood is literally in her veins now. It seems like they got lucky and they had the same blood type. Either that or like her body hasn't rejected it yet. I don't know what happens when you give someone the wrong blood type. I like the feeling of sunshine. That's a great image. Sickness and weakness are selfish things that turn our inner eyes and sympathy on ourselves, whilst health and strength give love reign. True. Very, very pretty way to put it. And then it's funny that she's like, oh, if only Arthur knew what I was thinking about. I slept so good with Dr. Seward next to me. I feel like he's gonna be, fine with it because, like, he trusts Seward and, like, we know that no weirdness went down and everything was okay. But it still is like, yeah, Arthur, like, what would you think if you knew what I'm thinking? Another man stayed with me all night. It's like, what? Oh, upcoming ad break. I will, take a pause, while the ad is going. I believe the body attacks and clots it. Gotcha. That makes sense. I mean, I guess I can be looking it up, while the ad is, going on. Okay, so what happens? Yeah, it can lead to a clumping of blood cells that can be potentially fatal. Can cause an immune response. Oh, okay. Your body produces antibodies to destroy the donor's blood cells. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it is the same as a organ transplant that, like, rejects it. That it's like, the body's like, this is not supposed to be here. We must attack it. Gotcha. I see one article that says, according to the experts, it would be very bad if the recipient's body is transfused with the wrong blood. And it's like, oh yeah, really? Is that what the experts say? It will be bad. I guess we just saw Van Helsing, a certified expert in many fields, using that exact terminology. But still. All right, Ad, you said you were incoming, so where are ya? Where are you, Ad? Here.
Oh, put the camera on the kitty. You're just a little marshmallow.
There we go. There's the ad. Okay, let me, while the ad is going, I'll take a look at how long the upcoming, it's a little bit longer. Okay. Might be able to do it. I'd love to get through half of September today before I go to bed. But we'll see how long it takes to. Is that right? Uh-oh. Okay, that's where we were. Right. Yeah, I already talked about that, so go to the next. All right. And and Bella left, so now I can't show you Bella.
But there's the bow. There's the bow, kitty. Kitty bow.
We're so cute. So cute. I guess I could be actually putting it on the full camera only. Yeah, so you can get a better view of him.
A better view of the little cotton ball. Kitty, kitty, ad time. Kitty, kitty, ad time. Just a little bit left. Just a little bit left.
Alright, 5 seconds. Alright. Welcome back. Assuming you are back. Okie dokie. September 10th. Dr. Seward's diary. 10th of September. I was conscious of the professor's hand on my head and started awake all in a second. And that is one of the things that we learn in an asylum, at any rate. To wake up when someone touches you. I feel like you don't need an asylum to learn that, but then that also makes me concerned about, like, how many of your patients touch your head while you're asleep. And how is our patient? Well, when I left her, or rather when she left me, I answered. Come, let us see, he said, and together we went into the room. That was not a complete sentence. All right. The blind was worn down. I went over to raise it gently, whilst Van Helsing stepped with a soft cat-like tread over to the bed. I do love the idea. I don't know how big of a dude Van Helsing is, but I'm kind of imagining him as well, I guess he did say, he was like, we're nerds, we're not that strong, so maybe he isn't a big man. But I was kind of imagining him on the larger side, and the image of him stepping softly like a cat is kind of awesome. Alright. I raised the blind, and the morning sunlight flooded the room. I heard the professor's low hiss of inspiration, and knowing its rarity, a deadly fear shot through my heart. As I passed over, he moved back, and his exclamation of horror, Gott in Himmel! Needed no enforcement from his agonized face. He raised his hand and pointed to the bed, and his iron face was drawn and ashen white. I felt my knees begin to tremble. I thought I was about to say, I fell to my knees, and then I was like, I felt my knees, and I was like, you're rubbing your knees, man? And then I felt my knees began to tremble. I'm guessing Gott in Himmel means God in heaven. There, on the bed, seemingly in a swoon, lay poor Lucy, more horribly white and wan-looking than ever. Even the lips were white, and the gums seemed to have shrunken back from the teeth, as we sometimes see in a corpse after a prolonged illness. Van Helsing raised his foot to stamp in anger, but the instinct of his life and all the long years of habit stood to him, and he put it down again softly. Quick, he said, bring the brandy. I flew to the dining room and returned with the decanter. He wetted the poor white lips with it, and together we rubbed palm and wrist and heart. He felt her heart, and after a few moments of agonizing suspense, said, It is not too late. It beats, but feebly. All our work is undone. We must begin again. There is no young Arthur here now. I have to call on you yourself this time, friend John. As he spoke, he was dipping into his bag and producing the instruments for transfusion. I had taken off my coat and rolled up my shirt sleeve. There was no possibility of an opiate just at present, and no need of one. And so, without a moment's delay, we began the operation. After a time, it did not seem a short time either, for the draining away of one's blood, no matter how willingly it be given, is a terrible feeling. Van Helsing held up a warning finger. "Do not stir," he said. "But I fear that with growing strength she may wake, and that would make danger, oh, so much danger. But I shall precaution take. I shall give hypodermic injection of morphia." He proceeded, then swiftly and deftly, to carry out his intent. The effect on Lucy was not bad, for the faint seemed to merge subtly into the narcotic sleep. It was with a feeling of personal pride that I could see a faint tinge of color steal back into the pallid cheeks and lips. No man knows, till he experiences it, what it is to feel his own lifeblood drawn away into the veins of the woman he loves. The professor watched me critically. "That will do," he said. "Already?" I remonstrated. "He took a great deal more from art." To which he smiled, a sad sort of smile, as he replied, "He is her lover, her fiancé. You have work, much work to do for her and for others, and the present will suffice." I mean, will it? Because it didn't really suffice when you took more from art. Hello, Odd Donut, welcome. Yes, that is me attempting to do a Van Helsing voice. Alright. Oh yeah, so this was a thing back then. It's in Frankenstein too, where when Walton brings Victor onto the boat, they like rub him with brandy and stuff. Alright. And then I love how like they get right to it, that it's like, all right, I gotta call on you this time, and he's already getting the stuff out, and then we turn to John, he's already like rolling up his sleeve. Fantastic. Love how quick they are to action. And then I like his descriptions of like, the blood draining away is a terrible feeling. Also a great line in a vampire book. Is this morphine? Is that morphine today? And then this is quite a line that I both like and dislike. That it's like poetic and nice, and I don't know, poetic and nice. But then it's also like, but she ain't your lady though, as Van Helsing quickly says. Oh yeah, there was, it might be too far away now. There's a line I was gonna talk about before. But there's like a line of like, I am worried about much things. That was like exactly the phrasing that it is in the Bible. And he talked about the Bible before, so I was wondering if that was a direct reference. Oh yeah, it was right here, for I'm anxious about many things. So I'm curious if that was a coincidence or if he meant to do that. But anyways, but yeah, like, maybe connect. You left her alone in the room, and then you came back and everything was horrible, so maybe don't leave her alone. And she was also fine when Dr. Seward was with her. Maybe do that again. Alright. I also love how he calls him friend John every time. Especially because he was his student, and so it's not like student John, it's John-kun. John, is that what they call the students? But it's just friend John. Very cute. And also very fair, like, yeah, he does have work to do, so maybe not great to take away his strength. When we stopped the operation, he attended to Lucy, whilst I applied digital pressure to my own incision. That's interesting. Does digital mean, like, digits of the fingers? It's been a long time since I've seen digital used in that way. I laid down whilst I waited his leisure to attend. I waited his leisure to attend to me, for I felt faint and a little sick. By and by, he wound up my wound. Oh, bound up. I was like, why did he say wound up? He didn't. By and by, he bound up my wound and sent me downstairs to get a glass of wine for myself. As I was leaving the room, he came after me and half whispered, "Mind, nothing must be said of this. If our young lover should turn up unexpected, as before, no word to him. It would at once frighten him and jealous him, too. There must be none. So." When I came back, he looked at me carefully and then said, "You are not much the worse. Go into the room and lie on your sofa and rest a while. And then have much breakfast and come here to me." Yeah, I mean, he was just thinking about, like, oh, wow, I'm giving blood to the woman I love. And then Van Helsing basically pings it and is like, yeah, maybe don't tell Arthur. Alright. Did I read that right? Then have much breakfast? That's cute. I followed out his orders, for I knew how right and wise they were. I had done my part, and now my next duty was to keep up my strength. I felt very weak, and in the weakness lost something of the amazement at what had occurred. I fell asleep on the sofa, however, wondering over and over again how Lucy had made such a retrograde movement, and how she could have been drained of so much blood with no sign anywhere to show for it. I think I must have continued my wonder in my dreams, for sleeping and waking, my thoughts always came back to the little punctures in her throat, and the ragged, exhausted appearance of their edges, tiny though they were. Lucy slept well into the day, and when she woke, she was fairly well and strong, though not nearly as much so as the day before. When Van Helsing had seen her, he went out for a walk, leaving me in charge, with strict injunctions that I was not to leave her for a moment. I could hear his voice in the hall, asking the way to the nearest telegraph office. Lucy chatted with me freely, and seemed quite unconscious that anything had happened. I tried to keep her amused and interested. When her mother came up to see her, she did not seem to notice any change whatever, but said to me gratefully, "We owe you so much, Dr. Seward, for all you have done. But you really must now take care not to overwork yourself. You are looking pale yourself. You want a wife to nurse and look after you a bit. That you do." As she spoke, Lucy turned crimson, though it was only momentarily, for her poor wasted veins could not stand for long such an unwanted drain to the head. The reaction came in excessive pallor as she turned imploring eyes on me. I smiled and nodded and laid my finger on my lips. With a sigh, she sank back amid her pillows. Does her mom not know that she had 3 proposals? That feels like something she would be eager to tell her mom, as she was to tell Mina. And, that one of those proposals was from Seward. And then I like that, she can't blush for long because she doesn't have enough blood to do that. Van Helsing returned in a couple of hours and presently said to me, "Now you go home and eat much and drink enough. Make yourself strong. I stay here tonight, and I shall sit up with the little miss myself. You and I must watch the case, and we must have none other to know. I have grave reasons. No, do not ask them. Think what you will. Do not fear to think even the most not probable. Good night." Okay, so is he on to it? Are the books that he went to grab vampire books? 'Cause that's great, if so. That would be pretty awesome. But yeah, Van Helsing really does like to scare people and then leave them with that it's like, alright, you go home, you rest, I'll be here, and don't tell anybody about anything, and the reasons are as bad as you are thinking. In fact, they are as improbable as you might be thinking. Good night! In the hall, 2 of the maids came to me and asked if they or either of them might not sit up with Miss Lucy. They implored me to let them, and when I said it was Dr. Van Helsing's wish that either he or I should sit up, they asked me quite piteously to intercede with the foreign gentlemen. I was much touched by their kindness, and perhaps it is because I am weak at present, and perhaps because it was on Lucy's account that their devotion was manifested, for over and over again have I seen similar instances of woman's kindness. I got back here in time for a late dinner, went my rounds, all well, and set this down whilst waiting for sleep. It is coming. That's an ominous way to talk about sleep. And I wait for sleep. It's coming. I guess maybe, like, on the one hand, it's ominous, but on the other, like, it's kind of hopeful. Then instead of being like, oh no, am I going to be able to sleep? That instead it's like, it will come. I will sleep. But yes, like, do sit with Lucy. Keep doing this. And, I don't know, like, what they mean by, they asked me quite piteously to intercede with the foreign gentleman. I'm afraid that there might be some racism going on here, but, like, he acted like it was nice, so maybe I'm reading too much into that. Anyways. September 11th, Dr. Seward's diary, 11th of September. This afternoon, I went over to Hillingham, found Van Helsing in excellent spirits, and Lucy much better. Shortly after I had arrived, a big parcel from abroad came for the professor. He opened it with much impressment, assumed of course, and showed a great bundle of white flowers. "These are for you, Miss Lucy," he said. "For me? Oh, Dr. Van Helsing!" "Yes, my dear, but not for you to play with. These are medicines." Here Lucy made a wry face. "Nay, but they are not to take in a decoction. I was going to say decoration. Nay, they are not to take in a decoction or in nauseous form. So you need not stub that so charming nose, or I shall point out to my friend Arthur that woes he may have to endure in seeing so much beauties that he so loves so much distort. Ah, my pretty miss, that brings the so nice nose all straight again. This is medicinal, but you do not know how. I put him in your window. I make pretty wreath. I hang him round your neck, so that you sleep well. Oh yes, they, like the lotus flower, make your trouble forgotten. It smells so like the waters of life, and of that fountain of youth that the conquistadors sought for in the Floridas, and find him all too late." That's interesting. Maybe I haven't heard the Fountain of Youth story well enough, but they went there and they found the Fountain of Youth too late. I like that. It was a different time, so foreign could be a city over. That's true. That is true. Very cute discussion of no, don't wrinkle your nose. Interesting. I'm curious. Again, I'm curious if he's on to the fact that he is a vampire. It is a vampire who is after her, and if these flowers actually will help, or if he is just grasping at straws and they're gonna do nothing. And it's funny that, like, it's like, Lucy, you're dying and you're snubbing your nose at, like, potentially eating flowers. Like, that is the least of your woes, having to potentially eat flowers. Alright. And I'm sure I didn't read this right. I don't know how to read that. Whilst he was speaking, Lucy had been examining the flowers and smelling them. Now she threw them down, saying with half laughter, half disgust, "Oh, Professor, I believe you are only putting a joke on me. Why, these flowers are only common garlic." Yay! He does know! To my surprise, Van Helsing rose up and said, with all his sternness, his iron jaw set and his bushy brows meeting, "No trifling with me. I never jest. There is grim purpose in all that I do, and I warn you that you do not thwart me. Take care, for the sake of others, if not for your own." Then, seeing poor Lucy scared, as she might well be, he went on more gently, "Oh, little miss, my dear, do not fear me. I only do for your good. But there's much virtue to you in those so common flowers. See, I place them myself in your room. I make myself the wreath that you are to wear. But hush, no telling to others that make so inquisitive questions. We must obey, and silence is a part of obedience. And obedience is to bring you strong and well into loving arms that wait for you. Now sit still a while. Come with me, friend John, and you shall help me deck the room with my garlic, which is all the way from Haarlem, where my friend Vanderpool raised herb in his glass houses all the year. I had to telegraph yesterday, or they would not have been here. We went into the room, taking the flowers with us. The professor's actions were certainly odd, and not to be found in any pharmacopoeia that I ever heard of. First, he fastened up the windows and latched them securely. Next, taking a handful of the flowers, he rubbed them all over the sashes, as though to ensure that every whiff of air that might get in would be laden with a garlic smell. Then, with the wisp, he rubbed all over the jamb of the door, above, below, and at each side, and round the fireplace in the same way. It all seemed grotesque to me, and presently I said, "Well, Professor, I know you always have a reason for what you do, but this certainly puzzles me. It is well we have no skeptic here, or he would say that you are working some spell to keep out an evil spirit." "Perhaps I am," he answered, quietly. Oops. "Perhaps I am," he answered quietly, and he began to make the wreath which Lucy was to wear around her neck. And we then waited whilst Lucy made her toilet for the night, and when she was in bed he came and himself fixed the wreath of garlic around her neck. The last words he said to her were, "Take care you do not disturb it, and even if the room feel close, do not tonight open the window or the door." "I promise," said Lucy. "And thank you both 1,000 times for all your kindness to me. Oh, what have I done to be blessed with such friends?" As we left the house in my fly, which was waiting, Van Helsing said, "Tonight I can sleep in peace, and sleep I want. 2 nights of travel, much reading in the day between, and much anxiety on the day to follow, and a night to sit up without a wink. Tomorrow in the morning early you call for me, and we come together to see our pretty miss, so much more strong for my spell, which I have work." Ha ha! He seemed so confident that I, remembering my own confidence 2 nights before, and with the baneful result, felt awe and vague terror. It must have been my weakness that made me hesitate to tell it to my friend, but I felt it all the more, like unshed tears. Oh, so I guess it's like he sat up with Lucy a couple nights ago, and like at first it was okay, but then it wasn't, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if your confidence is misplaced." But like, I mean, he's doing more than you did, Seward. I gotcha. And Ghost says, "In Squeeze Chat, we have D&D starting, so I've been going through my dice to fix my set to my character." Nice. Alright. I am liking Van Helsing more and more the more I read about him. Like, finally, somebody knows what's going on. Finally, somebody is taking precautions. Love it. I'm not sure if, like, this is the first person who, like, I'm reading through Dracula daily, so I don't know if things are different in the actual book and if somebody else figures it out earlier in the actual book. But in this version of events, he is the first one to know at least some level what's going on enough to do that. So, very satisfying, very relieving. Oh yeah, I didn't mention I like the Floridas. That's great. Especially because it's not like the Americas or the New World. It's the Floridas. Also, they're calling them flowers. I don't know if it's like the bulb or if there actually is a garlic flower that they're putting around. And it's good that after that first bout of complaining, Lucy is not complaining about the fact that the entire room heavily smells of garlic. That it's like, nope, doctor's orders. A garlic a day keeps the nightmares away. Also fair that Seward needs to ask, but funny that he's like, what you doing here, Van Helsing? What's up? Like a skeptic would say you're casting a spell. I might be. Goodbye. You know. This is a lot more digestible. The Dracula Daily version. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have tried multiple years to read it, but my problem was that there would be a day where there would be a large chunk, and then, like, I would not have time to read it that day. And then there would be more the next day, and so it would pile up, and then I wouldn't get to. But reading it like this out loud to you guys makes it so that I actually hold myself accountable and do it. So, and as I've been saying, I've gotten farther than I've ever gotten. I've gotten to the part that I've never gotten to before. So I'm really, really excited. This has been a lot more fun. Yeah, and good job rubbing it all over the door. Fantastic. I don't know what that means as we left the house in my fly. Alright. September 12th. Lucy Westenra's diary. 12th of September. How good they all are to me. I quite love that dear Dr. Van Helsing. You and me both, Miss Lucy. I wonder why you're so anxious about these flowers. He was anxious about you, not the flowers. He positively frightened me. He was so fierce. And yet he must have been right, for I feel comfort from them already. Somehow I do not dread being alone tonight, and I can go to sleep without fear. I shall not mind any flapping outside the window. Oh, the terrible struggle that I have had against sleep so often of late. The pain of the sleeplessness, or the pain of the fear of sleep, with such unknown horrors as it has for me. How blessed are some people whose lives have no fears, no dreads, to whom sleep is a blessing that comes nightly, and brings nothing but sweet dreams. Well, here I am tonight, hoping for sleep, and lying like Ophelia in the play, with virgin krantz and maiden struments. I never liked garlic before, but tonight it is delightful. There's peace in its smell. I feel sleep coming already. Good night, everybody. I hope that's not your last good night. I hope it works, but I don't like that. I'm glad that she came around. I'm glad that she went from wrinkle in her nose and being like, oh, I have to eat it, which, knowing it's garlic, it's like, that would have been lovely. Granted, maybe it's not great to eat by itself, but, like, garlic's awesome. Not a medicinal herb that tastes horrible. But, yeah, glad she came back around and enjoys it now. Yeah, I didn't talk about Van Helsing yelling at her. But it's like, I never jest. Well, you jested, yesterday with Arthur, like, it's like, oh no, we don't need that much blood, you know, we were in the middle of a crisis and you made a little jest, so that ain't true. But fair that he needs to be very, like, stern and be like, hey, this is not silly, this is gonna save your life. And that I like that he notices she's afraid and he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. That's really nice. It'll be a great read. Aw, I'm glad to hear that. Garlic used to be more pungent. Interesting. What made it more pungent than it is now? Oh yeah, this is where I was already at. Oh yeah, I shall not mind me flapping outside the window. That's telling. Like, Mina did say there was a bat out there before, but I didn't realize that... Because I kind of was imagining, like, some days he comes as a bat, some days he comes lizard fashion. Like, I guess that was a weird thing to think, because it certainly makes more sense for him to always come as a bat, because somebody might see him crawling lizard fashion up the wall. But, oh yeah, and he was a crow one time, too, so maybe that's part of what I was thinking, that maybe he shapeshifted into different creatures. But it sounds like he does come as a bat, but it's like... Lucy, you haven't told anybody about this. You haven't told anybody that you hear flapping every night. That is notable. Humans breeding the garlic weeded out the pungentness. Interesting. Alright. So is she talking about how, like, Ophelia had, like, so many flowers surround her at the end of the play? I don't remember what all, because, like, I remember that her dad died, and she's, like, kind of going a little nuts and giving flowers to everybody. But, like, I also think that, like, that's right before she dies, if not right when she dies. So maybe not the best comparison to be making, Lucy. Alright. How long is that one? This is a bit longer. But I think I can do it. September 13th. Dr. Seward's diary. 13th of September. Called at the Berkeley and found Van Helsing, as usual, up to time. The carriage ordered from the hotel was waiting. The professor took his bag, which he always brings with him now. Let all be put down exactly. Van Helsing and I arrived at Hillingham at 8 o'clock. It was a lovely morning. The bright sunshine and all the fresh feeling of early autumn seemed like the completion of nature's annual work. The leaves were turning to all kinds of beautiful colors, but had not yet begun to drop from the trees. When we entered, we met Mrs. Westenra coming out of the morning room. She is always an early riser. And she greeted us warmly and said, "You will be glad to know that Lucy is better. The dear child is still asleep. I looked into her room and saw her, but did not go in, lest I should disturb her." The professor smiled and looked quite jubilant. He rubbed his hands together and said, "Aha! I thought I had diagnosed the case. My treatment is working." To which she answered, "You must not take all the credit yourself, Doctor. Lucy's state this morning is due in part to me." Uh-oh, did she take the garlic away? "What do you mean, ma'am?" asked the professor. "Well, I was anxious about the dear child in the night, and went into her room. She was sleeping soundly, so soundly that even my coming did not wake her. But the room was awfully stuffy." She opened the window. "The room was awfully stuffy. There were a lot of those horrible, strong-smelling flowers about everywhere, and she had actually a bunch of them around her neck. I feared that the heavy odor would be too much for the dear child in her weak state, so I took them all away and opened a bit of the window and let in a little fresh air. You'll be pleased with her, I'm sure." That's even worse. She did both. She took it away and she opened the window. Oh my gosh. I hope that Van Helsing's about to yell at her because... Also, why did nobody tell her? Like, is this going along with, oh, we can't tell her because, like, she'll freak out and die? It's like, no, you can tell her that we put the garlic in there for her safety. Come on, guys. It's like bananas. We breed them more edible. Interesting. I didn't know that. Does that have to do with, like, bananas being radioactive and stuff, or is that completely a different part of bananas? Alright. Oh no, she just leaves. So she just says the horrible thing and leaves. She moved off into her boudoir, where she usually breakfasted early. As she had spoken, I watched the professor's face, and saw it turn ashen grey. He had been able to retain his self-command whilst the poor lady was present, for he knew her state and how mischievous a shock would be. I see, so that's why he didn't yell at her. He actually smiled on her as he held open the door for her to pass into her room. But the instant she had disappeared, he pulled me suddenly and forcibly into the dining room and closed the door. Tell her! Like, again, calmly as you can, saying, like, that was a bad idea. Like, she needed that garlic. I don't think it's going to give her so much of a shock that it's going to kill her. Then, for the first time in my life, I saw Van Helsing break down. He raised his hands over his head in a sort of mute despair, then beat his palms together in a helpless way. So, like this kind of thing. Finally, he sat down on a chair and, putting his hands before his face, began to sob, with loud, dry sobs that seemed to come from the very racking of his heart. Then he raised his arms again, as though appealing to the whole universe. God, he said, what have we done? What has this poor thing done? That we are so sore beset. Is there fate amongst us still, sent down from the pagan world of old, that such things must be, and in such way? This poor mother, all unknowing, and all for the best as she think, does such thing as lose her daughter's body and soul. And we must not tell her. We must not even warn her, or she'd die, and then both die. Oh, how we are beset. How are all the powers of the devils against us? Suddenly he jumped to his feet. Come, he said. Come, we must see an act. Devils or no devils, or all the devils at once. It matters not. We fight them all the same. He went to the hall door for his bag, and together we went up to Lucy's room. Once again, I drew up the blind, whilst Van Helsing went towards the bed. This time he did not start as he looked on the poor face with the same awful waxen pallor as before. He wore a look of stern sadness and infinite pity. As I expected, he murmured, with that hissing inspiration of his which meant so much. Without a word, he went and locked the door, and then began to set out onto the little table the instruments for yet another operation of transfusion of blood. I had long ago recognized the necessity, and begun to take off my coat, but he stopped me with a warning hand. No, he said. Today you must operate. I shall provide. You are weakened already. As he spoke, he took off his coat and rolled up his shirt sleeve. Again the operation, again the narcotic, again some return of color to the ashy cheeks, and the regular breathing of healthy sleep. This time I watched whilst Van Helsing recruited himself and rested. Presently, he took an opportunity of telling Mrs. Westenra that she must not remove anything from Lucy's room without consulting him, that the flowers were of medicinal value, and that the breathing of their odor was a part of the system of cure. And then he took over the care of the case himself, saying that he would watch this night and the next, and would send me word when to come. After another hour, Lucy waked from her sleep, fresh and bright, and seemingly not much the worse for her terrible ordeal. What does it all mean? I'm beginning to wonder if my long habit of life amongst the insane is beginning to tell upon my own brain. Oh, is it, Seward? Granted, I don't know what he's referring to here. None of his thoughts at this particular moment seemed weird. Oh boy, I need to give you mod powers. That's it. Let's do. Alright. Let's do. Different, I think. Gotcha. Fair. Alright. That's interesting. Every new thing I learn about Van Helsing makes me like him more. That he is, instead of because I was like, oh, please yell at her, but he did something so much nicer and so much more sympathetic that he just broke down and is like, oh my gosh, because that is the truth of the situation, that getting mad at the mom isn't even though I wanted him to, that's not the point. That's not the thing that he should be doing. It's really not his fault because, she is just doing what she thinks is best and doesn't realize what she's doing. And so the fact that Van Helsing can realize that and break down and be like, this is really sad that she was just trying to help, that we're trying to help, she's trying to help, and stuff like that. That's very, very evocative, very incites sympathy, both towards all the characters. And then I love the devils or no devils, or all of the devils at once. It matters not. We fight them all the same. That is a fantastic quote, and I'm surprised I have not heard that before. That is amazing. Yeah, stern sadness and infinite pity. He's really good at finding evocative images for emotion. Emotion is something that can be difficult to, losing my train of thought. It would be very easy to just be he looked sad and piteous. That the look on his face held sorrow and pity. And that would work fine, and I think that's what a lot of us writers would do, and it does the job. But, stern sadness and infinite pity is so much more evocative and interesting and unique. And he does that a lot with emotion, so I think that's great. I don't know why he's using the word inspiration, because I think it's that kind of thing. And so I don't know why that's called inspiration. Unless it's inspiration is similar to respiration, if it's like something about the breath. Yes, he was. Are you referring to the emotional beats? Let's see. You're gonna run out of people to give blood from. I'm glad it's helping every time. Gotcha. Also, it's funny that, like, Dracula doesn't rest. Like, he isn't like, oh, like, I came early in the night and there was garlic, so that's too bad. I'll go back to my house that I rented, you know? Or maybe he bought it, I don't remember. But no, it's like, oh, I hear the garlic has been removed. Goody goody. It's like, why are you so relentless, man? Why didn't you leave for the night? Alright. I don't think that this is very long. No, it's not. Okay. September 17th. Lucy Westenra's diary. 17th of September. Poor days and nights of peace. I'm getting so strong again that I hardly know myself. It is as if I had passed through some long nightmare and had just awakened to see the beautiful sunshine and feel the fresh air of the morning around me. I have a dim half-remembrance of long anxious times of waiting and fearing, darkness in which there was not even the pain of hope to make present distress more poignant, and then long spells of oblivion, and the rising back to life as a diver coming up through a great press of water. Since, however, Dr. Van Helsing has been with me, all this bad dreaming seems to have passed away. The noises that used to frighten me out of my wits, the flapping against the windows, the distant voices which seemed so close to me, the harsh sounds that came from I know not where, and commanded me to do I know not what, have all ceased. I go to bed now without any fear of sleep. I do not even try to keep awake. I've grown quite fond of the garlic, and the Bucksville arrives for me every day from Haarlem. Tonight, Dr. Van Helsing is going away, as he has to be for a day in Amsterdam. But I need not be watched. I am well enough to be left alone. Thank God for mother's sake, and dear Arthur's, and for all our friends who have been so kind. I shall not even feel the change, for last night Dr. Van Helsing slept in his chair a lot of the time. I found him asleep twice when I awoke, but I did not fear to go to sleep again, although the boughs or bats or something napped almost angrily against the window panes. Yeah, he really is relentless. Like, he's just slamming his little bat body against the window, even though there's garlic in there. So, I'm still nervous. I'm still nervous about him having to leave. I don't know about that. And then again, like, the flapping against the windows, the distant voices which seemed so close to me, the harsh sounds that came from I know not where and commanded me to do I know not what. Why didn't you tell anybody about this stuff, Lucy? Like, these are important clues. I guess she thinks that it's all nightmares and she thinks it's not real, and that's why she's not telling anybody, but... and she probably thinks it's, like she said, the boughs, like the trees flapping against the windows, but still. And I don't know what she means by chair, because chair could be in the room or outside of the room. But it is comforting that he did fall asleep and she was okay, but... Alright. Dr. Seward's diary, 17th of September. I was engaged after dinner in my study posting up my books, which, through press of other work and the many visits to Lucy, had fallen sadly into arrear. Suddenly the door was burst open, and in rushed my patient, with his face distorted with passion. I was thunderstruck, for such a thing as a patient getting of his own accord into the superintendent's study is almost unknown. Without an instant's pause, he made straight at me. He had a dinner knife in his hand, and as I saw he was dangerous, I tried to keep the table between us. He was too quick and too strong for me. However, for before I could get my balance, he had struck at me and cut my left wrist rather severely. Before he could strike again, however, I got in my right, and he was sprawling on his back on the floor. My wrist bled freely, and quite a little blood trickled onto the carpet. I saw that my friend was not intent on further effort, and occupied myself binding up my wrist, keeping a wary eye on the prostrate figure all the time. When the attendants rushed in, and we turned our attention to him, his employment positively sickened me. He was lying on his belly on the floor, licking up, like a dog, the blood which had fallen from my wounded wrist. He was easily secured, and to my surprise, went with the attendants quite placidly, simply repeating over and over again, "The blood is life! The blood is life!" I cannot afford to lose blood just at present. I have lost too much of late for my physical good. And then the prolonged strain of Lucy's illness and its horrible phases is telling on me. I am overexcited and weary, and I need rest. Rest. Happily, Van Helsing has not summoned me, so I need not forego my sleep. Tonight, I could not do well without it. Interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say when I first saw the line, I was like, first you leave his window open, and now he's getting into your office, but at least he wasn't expecting it. At least this is something he should not be able to do. But interesting it took him this long to go to human blood, because Seward mentioned before, he was like, I wonder how many lives he thinks a human life is worth. So interesting that it took this long to get to that phase. And I don't know if Dracula is doing anything to him, because he kind of acted like Dracula had abandoned him. But this is making it seem like he's maybe more vampiric than he was before. I'm not sure. Very curious. I don't know if Dracula's making the rounds, going to Renfield and then going to Lucy. Slamming his bat body against Renfield's window, slamming his bat body against Lucy's window. But yeah, I was thinking that as well, that like, oh, he has already lost blood. He should not lose more. And I don't know why he's just like, okay, he doesn't look like he's gonna go for more, so time to bind it up. And it's like, fair, you need to tend to yourself, but also, like, at least be like, hey, doctors, attendants, come help, call for somebody. But yeah, that is gross. It is fair that he is grossed out by that. I don't know why he picked Seward specifically, because, like, there was a time where he said something like, oh my goodness, so weird. They think that I could hurt you. And then, like, he very specifically goes for him and not for his attendants. Unless he did go for his attendants as well, and Seward just didn't know about it. But, yeah, interesting. Oh, okay, this is tiny. We can do this. Telegram Van Helsing, Antwerp to Seward, Carfax. Sent to Carfax, Sussex, as no country given. Delivered late by 22 hours. 17th of September. Do not fail to be at Tillingham tonight. If not watching all the time frequently, visit and see that flowers are as placed. Very important. Do not fail. Shall be with you as soon as possible after arrival. Interesting. Okay, so it's delivered late. So he went to sleep. He went to bed, not knowing that Van Helsing sent him something. Is this all? Yeah, this is also the 17th. Okay, I should probably. Oh. Okay, I should probably do all of the 17th. Memorandum left by Lucy Westenra, 17th September, night. I write this and leave it to be seen, so that no one may by any chance get into trouble through me. This is an exact record of what took place tonight. I feel I am dying of weakness, and have barely strength to write, but it must be done if I die in the doing. I went to bed as usual, taking care that the flowers were placed as Dr. Van Helsing directed, and soon fell asleep. I was waked by the flapping at the window, which had begun after the sleepwalking on the cliff at Whitby when Mina saved me, and which now I know so well. Oh, interesting. So it was that the first time that that Dracula drank from her? That he wasn't doing it before that? And then did he not know where she lived before that? That's curious. And again, feels like you should have mentioned that. I was not afraid. I mean, I guess she is mentioning it now. I was not afraid, but I did wish that Dr. Seward was in the next room, as Dr. Van Helsing said he would be, so that I might have called him. I tried to go to sleep, but could not. And then there came to me the old fear of sleep, and I determined to keep awake. Perversely, sleep would try to come then when I did not want it. So, as I feared to be alone, I opened my door and called out, "Is anybody there?" There was no answer. I was afraid to wake Mother, and so closed my door again. Then outside in the shrubbery I heard a sort of howl like a dog's, more fierce and deeper. I went to the window and looked out, but could see nothing except a big bat, which had evidently been buffeting its wings against the window. If you hear this sound every night, and you saw it this time, and Mina saw it the other time, don't you have your answer as to what the sound is? So I went back to bed again, but determined not to go to sleep. Presently the door opened, and Mother looked in, seeing by my moving that I was not asleep, came in and sat by me. She said to me even more sweetly and softly than her wont, "I was uneasy about you, darling, and I came in to see that you were all right." I feared she might catch cold sitting there, and asked her to come in and sleep with me, so she came into bed and lay down beside me. She did not take off her dressing gown, for she said she would only stay a while and then go back to her own bed. Oh no, is she gonna get the shock tonight? She lay there in my arms, and I in hers. The flapping and buffeting came to the window again. She was startled and a little frightened, and cried out, "What is that?" I tried to pacify her, and at last succeeded, and she lay quiet. But I could hear the poor dear heart still beating terribly. After a while there was a low howl again out in the shrubbery, and shortly after there was a crash at the window, and a lot of broken glass was hurled on the floor. The window blind blew back with the wind that rushed in, and in the aperture of the broken panes there was the head of a great gaunt grey wolf. Mother cried out in affright, and struggled up into a sitting posture, and clutched wildly at anything that would help her. Amongst other things, she clutched the wreath of flowers that Dr. Van Helsing insisted on my wearing round my neck, and tore it away from me. For a second or two she sat up pointing at the wolf, and there was a strange and horrible gurgling in her throat. Then she fell over, as if struck with lightning, and her head hit my forehead and made me dizzy for a moment or two. The room and all round seemed to spin round. I kept my eyes fixed on the window. The wolf drew his head back, and a whole myriad of little specks seemed to come blowing in through the broken window, and wheeling and circling round like the pillar of dust that travellers describe when there is a simoon in the desert. I tried to stir, but there was some spell upon me, and dear Mother's poor body, which seemed to grow cold already, for her dear heart had ceased to beat, weighed me down, and I remembered no more for a while. The time did not seem long, but very, very awful, until I recovered consciousness again. Somewhere near, a passing bell was tolling. The dogs all round the neighbourhood were howling, and in our shrubbery, seemingly just outside, a nightingale was singing. I was dazed and stupid with pain and terror and weakness, for the sound of the nightingale seemed like the voice of my dead mother come back to comfort me. The sound seems to have awakened the maids too, for I could hear their bare feet pattering outside my door. I called to them, and they came in, and when they saw what had happened, and what it was that lay over me on the bed, they screamed out. The wind rushed in through the broken window, and the door slammed too. They lifted off the body of my dear mother, and laid her, covered up with a sheet, on the bed after I had got up. They were all so frightened and nervous that I directed them to go to the dining room, and have each a glass of wine. And the door flew open for an instant and closed again. The maids shrieked, and then went in a body to the dining room, and I laid what flowers I had on my dear mother's breast. When they were there, I remembered what Dr. Van Helsing had told me, but I didn't like to remove them, and besides, I would have some of the servants to sit up with me now. I was surprised that the maids did not come back. I called them, but got no answer, so I went to the dining room to look for them. My heart sank when I saw what had happened. They all four lay helpless on the floor, breathing heavily. The decanter of sherry was on the table half full, but there was a queer acrid smell about. I was suspicious and examined the decanter. It smelled of laudanum, and looking on the sideboard, I found that the bottle which Mother's doctor uses for her, did use, was empty. What am I to do? What am I to do? I am back in the room with Mother. I cannot leave her, and I am alone, save for the sleeping servants, whom someone has drugged. Alone with the dead. I dare not go out, for I can hear the low howl of the wolf through the broken window. The air seems full of specks, floating and circling in the draught from the window. The lights burn blue and dim. What am I to do? God shield me from harm this night. I shall hide this paper in my breast, or they shall find it when they come to lay me out. My dear mother is gone. It is time that I go too. Goodbye, dear Arthur, if I should not survive this night. God keep you, dear, and God help me. Oh my gosh. This one is actually upsetting. Like, I think I've talked about before that some of the chapters are like spooky, but like not actually upsetting spooky. This is actually upsetting spooky. Like, that is horrible that like her mother doesn't just die, but she dies on top of her and she's too weak to get her off, and then the servants are drugged and she has to sit there. Well, she chooses, but she's sitting there with the body of her mother alone because Seward and Van Helsing are gone. Like, oh, that's horrible. Oh my goodness. And like, funnily enough, like, she kind of seemed to accept that her mother was dead kind of quickly, and I guess you kind of have to if like she falls down dead on top of you. But interesting that she doesn't like fight it or be like, what? No, not possible. She's just like, that happened. It's interesting that Dracula is so determined that he like broke in the window in his wolf form, especially when the room is like thick with garlic. That's interesting. I wonder why he did that again. I wonder why he's so determined. And I wonder what the particles are, because my best guess is that it's his mist form, but he's like already in his wolf form. I don't know if he can be part mist and part wolf at the same time. Oh, also, I didn't know that he was a gray wolf. I actually thought he was black. So that is interesting. Yeah, at first I was happy that her mom came in to help and snuggle. I was like, oh, how wrong I was. And then, oh, it's terrible that she, like, threw the flowers down, because maybe if the garlic was still around her, it would have saved her. Is Simoon like a, what is that called? When there's like a little tornado? Oh, there's an incoming outbreak. For 1800s. Yeah, I guess they did see a lot of death in the 1800s. I guess part of it is that, like, they were like, oh, we can't tell Lucy. It's terrible. It's horrible. And then it happens, and she's not even that surprised. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. It's like, okay, well, that's too bad. I guess she's gone, you know? Alright, I'll show the kitty in a second when the ad comes up. Oh man, it really is late. But I need to do Mina's 17th. Oh, I guess I could have snoozed that ad. I should have done that. Should have done that. Come on, ad. Oh, I see Bella's under the table now, too. Well, I guess I'll keep talking until the ad goes off. So interesting that like every time Wolf Dracula howls, all the dogs, well, maybe not every time because he howled before this happened, but there it is. There's the ad. Is there a way? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
We'll just relax with the kitty for a little bit.
He's very sleepy.
You're very sleepy. sleepy, adorable kitty. It's gonna be time for actual bed very shortly. Very shortly, kitty cat.
I don't know what else to do besides just pet him. If you want to have a conversation about a random thing for a minute, we can. Anyone who's here. Yeah, that's, I mean, you can't hear me, but that's very sweet of you to say. Appreciate that.
I know, giving you a lot of attention, huh?
Alright, 10 seconds. 6 seconds. 2, 1. Back. Alright. Yeah, I don't know if it's just natural that, like, oh yeah, they hear something, they hear the wolf howl and then they howl, or if there's something magical, or both. Alright. And interesting that they got drugged, like, that Dracula could drug them that fast. I don't know if he, like, went into mist form and misted through them and made them go to sleep, or if he actually drugged them, but that felt very fast. Oh yeah, but no, it's like there's laudanum, so yeah, there's something there. So, like, how did he get in and do that? That doesn't make sense. I do like this, though. Alright. The last bit of September 17th, and then I really must go to bed. A letter. Mina Harker to Lucy Westenra. Unopened by her. There we go. Now we reach the unopened by her thing that I saw while copying this down, that I was like, that hits hard. 17th of September. My dearest Lucy, it seems an age since I heard from you, or indeed since I wrote. You'll pardon me, I know, for all my faults when you have read all my budget of news. Well, I got my husband back all right. When we arrived at Exeter, there was a carriage waiting for us, and in it, though he had an attack of gout, Mr. Hawkins. He took us to his house, where there were rooms for us, all nice and comfortable, and we dined together. After dinner, Mr. Hawkins said, My dears, I want to drink your health and prosperity. May every blessing attend you both. I know you both from children, and have with love and pride seen you grow up. Now I want you to make your home here with me. I have left to me neither chick nor child. All are gone, and in my will I have left you everything. I cried, Lucy dear, as Jonathan and the old man clasped hands. Our evening was a very, very happy one. So here we are, installed in this beautiful old house, and from both my bedroom and the drawing room I can see the great elms of the cathedral close, with their great black stems standing out against the old yellow stone of the cathedral, and I can hear the rooks overhead cawing and chattering and gossiping all day, after the manner of rooks and humans. I am busy, I need not tell you, arranging things in housekeeping. Jonathan and Mr. Hawkins are busy all day, For now that Jonathan is a partner, Mr. Hawkins wants to tell him all about the clients. How is your dear mother getting on? Oof. I wish I could run up to town for a day or two to see you, dear, but I dare not go yet, with so much on my shoulders, and Jonathan wants looking after still. He is still beginning to put some flesh on his bones again, but he was terribly weakened by the long illness. Even now, he sometimes starts out in his sleep in a sudden way and awakes all trembling until I can coax him back to his usual placidity. However, thank God these occasions grow less frequent as the days go on, and they will in time pass away altogether, I trust. And now I've told you my news. Let me ask yours. When are you to be married, and where, and who is to perform the ceremony, and what are you to wear, and is it to be a public or a private wedding? Tell me all about it, dear. Tell me all about everything, for there is nothing which interests you which will not be dear to me. Jonathan asked me to send his respectful duty, but I do not think that is good enough from the junior partner of the important firm Hawkins and Harker. And so, as you love me, and he loves me, and I love you with all the moods and tenses of the verb, I send you simply his love instead. Goodbye, my dearest Lucy, and all the blessings on you. Yours, Mina Harker. Ooh, that hits hard. That's one of those things where, like, if this was put just one entry earlier, then it would be like, okay, yeah, like she's sending her happiness and is oblivious, but knowing that her mom is dead and probably Lucy is dead, and she's like, wow, I'm so happy. What is your news, Lucy? It's like, oh, that hurts. Have I ever played Sky? I have not. I have not actually, I don't think I've heard of that. What is that about? But yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, she's in her, well, she's kind of in her married bliss, but also, that was the cat, his little foot. But also, like, genuinely he was sick and she did have to help him, but it's still like, kind of seems like you're forgetting your friends in your marriage, and that's gonna cost you, kind of thing. Also, if Lucy is dead, then Dr. Seward is gonna be so mad at himself. Like, oh my goodness, he is gonna beat himself up like crazy. What, he's a little bunny kicking the chair. What Van Helsing talked about before, about how, oh, if you don't, like, stay up with her tonight, then you'll never be able to sleep again, sort of thing. Like, I think that's gonna be the case. I'm not sure. Now I'm starting to wonder if maybe he will go mad by the end of this book, because that feels like a reason he might lose it. But, yeah. And then, did Hawkins say that he was going to give them this house early in the book? I think they might have. And then, oh, that hurts. That hurts so much. Especially because, like, Arthur didn't even get to spend, like, the last days with her. Because, like, I was wondering where he is, but I think he's with his dad. And I don't know if his dad makes it or not. And so it's kind of like, oh, especially if they both die, it's like he had to make a choice between spending his dad's last days with him or spending his fiance's last days with her. Like, oh, that's a terrible choice. I do like that, you know, all the love things, like, you know, explaining what it means to say I'm going to send his love rather than, oh, he sends his love, but actually giving meaning to that. That's pretty cool. Sky Children of the Light is an MMO based around love and hope, as you are a moth on which you help spirits pass on with their regrets or passion. So many lessons. Oh, that's awesome! Can you put that in the recommendations for stream channel to remind me to check that out? That sounds perfect for the channel. But yes, it is much later than I really should have gone, but it's been super fun. Thank you so much for joining me, Ghostly Things. It was so nice to meet you, and I hope we can continue to hang out and enjoy Dracula together. If there is somebody you would like me to raid, then do offer a raid target for me. Otherwise, I can try and look at Twitch and see what's going on. Yeah, is there somebody playing? Let's see. It looks like there's somebody playing Symphony of the Night who has 0 viewers right now. So maybe we should raid this person and give them some viewers. Okay, raid. Is that right? Oh, we were on the same time. But yes, it has been a lovely time. I hope you have enjoyed it. I certainly have. And I will see you next time. Alrighty. Goodbye.